The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Garrett Murray. I'm the National Director for Horizon 2020 at Enterprise Ireland, and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's webinar and brokerage event. This is a terrific event. We were quite taken aback at the level of interest that we've seen, and as we see there, the attendees are going up and up by the minute. So if anybody is having problems, do contact us and we'll resolve them. We have, over the next 2 days, people from 46 countries registered, which is a testament to the strength and effort of our EEN colleagues and co-organisers in assisting ourselves and Intertrade Ireland and InvestNI in running this event, which is very much an all-island affair. What we wanted to do was run an event which showed you our all-island interest in the Green Deal and gave everybody else an opportunity to engage with us and with yourselves to advance your research agendas. I particularly want to do a shout out to the Spanish and the Turkish contingents who have come in such numbers in terms of registration over the next 2 days. If I could speak Spanish or Turkish, I should probably be doing the introduction in those languages, but it's testament to the interest both in this event and in this agenda over the next few days. I want to thank my colleagues on our own EEN teams and the InvestNI teams and our wider NCP network for all their efforts. Like everything, I suppose, with COVID-19, we've learned that when we cooperate and we do things together, we generally do them better. And that's what we're trying to do with this event. And I think, as we've also learned with COVID, the best way to face a societal challenge is together and working in a collaborative and cohesive manner. And I think the Green Deal and climate change, there's no other greater challenge than we face in the short to medium term, where we need to demonstrate that level of togetherness. And it is particularly important. When we look at the 8 pillars, as I call them, of the Green Deal, what it shows us as you go through the documents is the level and variety and a number of topics for researchers and innovators. And I think one of the things we have to learn when we talk about the Green Deal is the diversity of factors that can be involved in this collaborative effort. And not least, when we talk about energy, we talked about farm to fork, but we also talk about citizen engagement and that place of social science within our research community. And that also should not be underestimated. From an Irish perspective, we had a lovely moment on the dashboard 3 weeks ago when we hit the €1 billion for Horizon 2020 funding, and there's a great psychological hurdle, and there's more money there which has to be registered. So like you from all over the world, we're here today to try and meet new people, collaborate, but I don't think it's just about the deadline of January 26. I think it's also about the missions, which John will talk about, and the clusters for the next programme, and really starting to form diverse new relationships, because many of these call topics are very large and will probably involve different constituent parts in collaborations. And that's another reason we're here today. So we see this as the beginning of a journey in relation to the Green Deal, very much not at the end of a journey. We'll move to John Bell in a moment, but just to give the day in numbers, which I'm particularly pleased with. So as you see there, the figures are going up, but over the 2 days, we've 2,630 people registered, which is a lovely number. We've 3,197 meetings already scheduled. There are 1,600 meetings still in the system looking for acceptance. So can I implore you all to go in and either reject or accept meetings so we can make room for other people. There is a large number of available slots because we've upped them, and you can engage in meetings up until 5 o'clock tomorrow. So we've specifically rolled it for the 2 days. I think what's also really important is there's 1,381 R&D and innovation opportunities on the B2Match webinar site for this event. So I would really implore you all to get tweeting and hashtagging with hashtag Green Deal, and you can leverage off us Horizon 2020_Ireland, and let's push out those marketplace innovation and research opportunities to the wider world, because the diversity and level of innovation and research orientation in there is really quite impressive, and we should be marking that and presenting it as best we can. In terms of the organisation of the day, I'll finish soon. We'll talk to a colleague, Vicky, and then we'll move on to John Bell's presentation. We will then take a break, coffee break or green tea break, depending, considering the day that's in it. And then what we might do is we'll move on to our pitches. What we're going to do is centrally control the slides, because one of our COVID learnings from webinars is that people have broadband issues. So whoever's speaking, just say next, and my colleague Bob will move the slide on for you at your convenience. For the pictures, please keep to the time, and we'll do our best to make sure everything runs as smoothly as possible. I'd ask you all to have your cameras on when you're talking, and when you're not, please don't. And I suppose that's really everything in terms of the running order for the day. What I suppose I would like to say is it would have been lovely to welcome you here to Ireland on what is a lovely autumnal day in normal times to have a proper conversation about the Green Deal. So hopefully as we go into Horizon Europe and we move on to the next stage, we'll be able to welcome you to Dublin at a time when we can bring you into a big venue and shake your hands and welcome you properly. But in the interim, I'm afraid this is what we're stuck with. So I would just like to ask Vicky Kell, my colleague and Director of Innovation and Research from InvestNI, to join my welcome before we move over to John.
Okay, thanks very much, Garrett. Really pleased to be here, and it's great to be sitting here among the panelists at this joint event. We are thrilled to have collaborated with Enterprise Ireland to organise this all-island event. And it is really important that we work together. I mean, the nature of these days, 2 days, are collaboration, and the fact that we are collaborating to bring this event, I think, speaks volumes. I think we probably need to be realistic about the potential of opportunities for some of our companies. We may not be able to lead on the projects, but certainly I know there are a lot of companies out there who have got value that they can add to collaborations that are being developed. This is a huge scale of quantum in terms of the amounts of money that is an offer. So I would encourage you to please work with each other, see how you can come together and get the maximum value from the consortiums that are being developed. This is a great opportunity for Northern Ireland GB to access Horizon 2020 funding, and it's great that the UK can participate in this call. I would just like to pick up on some of the points that Garrett mentioned about the meetings. You've got the ability to create a profile. Please, as you go through the course of today, if things spark with you, update your profile so that those people that are using it to search for potential collaborators will find the right people. So please be proactive. Also use the hashtag Green Deal, as Garrett has said, and try and make the most of these 2 days. It's a strange environment, it's a virtual environment, but that in some ways also brings opportunity because you've got the ability to engage with more people, and we've got a huge audience there, maybe more than we would have had physically if people had to travel. So please, please make the most of it. And I really do want you to be proactive. What you get out of these 2 days depends on what you put into these 2 days. You'll hear from the experts, it'll trigger thoughts in your mind, it'll trigger opportunities in your mind, but please be proactive, make the most of it, engage, make contact, reach out and try and find those consortia and those relationships that you can actually take forward into the future and build upon, and that will help your business. I really do wish you that you have a really successful day today, and that you make use of the opportunity tomorrow to schedule some additional meetings. Partnership is a key to success in business. Partnership depends on people engaging with people. It's a virtual world, but at least you can see the people, you can talk to the people, so please make the most of that. I wish you every good luck in the Horizon 2020 consortia that are developed over the course of these 2 days and any subsequent submissions that arise. I really hope you make the most of these 2 days. I'm thrilled to be able to participate in this, and I'm looking forward to hearing what John says. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Garrett. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. So just before we go to John, I'll just reiterate 1 or 2 other housekeeping points. We're not going to bombard John with loads of questions on the calls during his talk. For obvious reasons, we have all our NCPs who are going to go through the specifics as we go through each call. And what we're planning on doing is most of the questions you will be able to get answered by your own NCPs. Where there's something high level, we'll try and address it during the talk. But where we can't, if you put it in the chat or in the question section, we get a report at the end of the event and we will come back to you with answers where is appropriate. So we're trying to, with the numbers involved, we're trying to keep that as controlled as possible. So on that basis, John, I'll pass over to you. So John Bell from the European Commission, we look forward to hearing your views on your focus on the Green Deal. Many thanks.
Good morning, Garrett and Vicky. Thank you very much to EI Invest NI for bringing people together. And as you said, across Europe, we've people here from Turkey and Spain. So Günaydin Turkiye and Hola España, Giev Galer, Folchero Galer. My name is John Bell. I'm the director of what's called the Healthy Planet Directive. As you can imagine, it's a KPI that's going to be quite difficult to achieve, but we like to be ambitious in research and innovation in the Research and Innovation Department of the European Commission. And what Garrett was talking about, the €1 billion that has been attained by the work and the cooperation of NCPs and actors in Ireland, on the island of Ireland, is a great achievement. I was there when the whole ambition was set out 7 years ago. So it shows that everything is possible. And maybe in the introduction, there were two words that Vicky and Garrett used, and one of them was together, and the other was next. And you can basically summarize this presentation on the European Green Deal call in those two words. It's our opportunity to really today, with the NCPs who do such a fantastic job across Ireland and Northern Ireland, the UK and the rest of the European Union, to bring people together to determine and to envisage what needs to happen next. And in this dreadful period of history that we're going through, here is an opportunity for all of us to work out what we want to happen next, to bring our ideas and our innovation, our business models and our ways of cooperation and our cultures and our knowledge together to decide on what the destination should be for the world that we're going to go into when we come out of this awful, unprecedented period. So I'm talking today about the European Green Deal call, which is a unique opportunity for research and innovation in Ireland and Northern Ireland and across Europe to really drive transition, and also to prepare for the way in which research and innovation will be called on, not in Horizon Europe and in other instruments, to start setting direction, to play a different role in meeting what is a fundamentally changed context for the European Union and our neighbourhood. Next, the context of this is what is called the European Green Deal. Now, you will be familiar with different parts of the history of the European integration. We basically had four big missions until this point. There was peace through coal and steel. There was the creation of the common market, the single market. There was the peaceful reunification of the continent through enlargement, the development of the Eurozone. And now the European Union's mission, its raison d'etre, its reason for existing, is to create by 2050 a climate neutral Europe that is living within its planetary means and that is fair and just. And this is the first time. 2050 is a long way away. It's beyond investment cycles, policy cycles, political cycles, natural cycles, and it's a definition of what we have to do if we are going to be, the word sustainable is used in many ways, but if our economy, our society are in keeping with our biosphere, and that we can actually have a future which is better. So to understand, the Green Deal is not like a normal policy. It is going to frame everything that the European Union does in every way, in every place, with every instrument for the next 30 years. And the next 10 years, of course, is critically important in getting to climate neutrality, but the ability to identify what are the game-changing systems, what are the ways of developing this decarbonisation, how do we make it work for people on the ground where they live, in their housing, in their energy, in their mobility, in their farming, in their industry, in the way in which they travel and interact and do services. How are we going to shape that over a period of 30 years? So the European Green Deal, it's a fundamental motor and compass for the Europe of the future. And in this terrible period that we're going through, where we're faced with an economic challenge of a systemic nature and a societal crisis that is unparalleled in peacetime, the European Union has also said that this thinking, this roadmap, this guidance will also inform how we move into recovery and out of this terrible pandemic. So what you will see in here in all of the talk in the European Union about the recovery package and the EU Next Generation programme, there's a mobilisation there of 1.8 trillion euros, a third of which will be directly invested in these climate-related measures in a fair and just way. And all of what we're going to be doing is to accelerate the development of an economy, a society, and an environment that are in sync. We've just recently passed the Climate Target Plan, where the European Union is going to have greenhouse gas emissions reduction by at least 55% as a centrepiece, and our institutions are debating this as we speak in the Parliament and the Council. Vice President Timmermans, who's leading the charge in this, has said, look, we're beyond business as usual. That's our day-to-day life now, is beyond business as usual. So how do we build back better? How do we make this at least 55% by 2030 a reality? And I can tell you from conversations with colleagues across the Commission, we're making a lot more progress in areas you wouldn't expect than maybe people had foreseen. So in this kind of, I don't know, can we use the phrase, the bleak midwinter of COVID, and looking at all these challenges in terms of the climate, the collapse in species, the difficulties in binding together our economies, the mistrust that people have for a lot of the systems that inform their lives, the European Union is setting out its stall and saying this is the direction that we're going in. And very importantly, it's calling on research and innovation to have a different role, a more ambitious role in making this happen. So if you look across the European Green Deal here up on the screen, you can see it's comprehensive, but in each of these areas, policies either have already been rolled out by President von der Leyen's Commission or are in the process of being rolled out. This week, I think, or next week, the 14th, tomorrow, in fact, we will have the renovation wave in terms of how we're going to do the rebuilding of our public infrastructures of hospitals and schools and social housing to reduce the energy impact of greenhouse gases. So in each of these areas of the European Green Deal, there are new policies. You will see now it's a great interest in Ireland from farm to fork for the first time since I think David Byrne was Food Commissioner. There is now a comprehensive agriculture and food policy, and you'll see right away across there are new ambitions for biodiversity, for ecosystems, for energy, for finance. There's indeed a review taking place. The new Commissioner, Mairead McGuinness, in her area, they're looking at the taxonomy. How do we actually approach the use of the financial instruments that the European Union uses? So this is the direction, this is the destination. There are very clear targets, and in all of this, research and innovation is now being asked to play a role, not simply observing and reporting what is happening, but setting direction, testing and demonstrating solutions, looking for ways in which we can bring people together that work again, the knowledge that is necessary, the places that are involved, the solutions that need to be tested, the fair and just transitions that need to be developed, and to do them in a way which can happen more quickly to achieve what are very, very clear targets for the European Union as a whole and for each and every member state that are there. So the Green Deal is, I'd say, our DNA for the next 30 years. You know that as part of this, next slide, as part of this, we have an evolving situation with regard to our research and innovation ecosystem. So when I was part with Morag and Quinn of setting up Horizon 2020, part of the idea was to develop a closer link between excellent science, applied research, innovative systems, and new solutions and their dissemination. And this will be the last call of Horizon 2020, but we're moving into, as we speak at home, this is one of the reasons I'm relatively busy at the moment, we're preparing Horizon Europe, the next framework program, which will be at more or less 90 billion euros, and 35% of that will be specifically dealing with climate-related aspects. In Cluster 5, the greenhouse gas emissions that are related to energy and mobility and cities, and indeed culture. And Cluster 6, which I co-chair with my colleague from Agri, where we're looking at primary production systems, the food system, environment, bioeconomy, water systems, food security, and the circular economy. And we'll also be, and we're very busy at the moment, you'll have seen there are discussions beginning to take place about the strategic program of Horizon Europe, the work programs of Horizon Europe, and the calls of Horizon Europe that will start next year. We'll also be developing this word together again, partnerships, new partnerships that are much more focused on delivering into this European Green Deal transition, on clean hydrogen, clean steel, a renewed circular bio-based joint undertaking, green aviation, waterborne transport, a major stepping up on biodiversity and ecosystem services, and of course the built environment. Now, part of this next step, this Horizon Europe next step, what you see on the screen are what we call Green Deal missions. And we'll probably come back to this, Garrett and Vicky, at some point in the future, hopefully when we can delight in proper Irish tea and soda ferns at the next time we come to speak face to face. But the Green Deal missions are a way, I think, of understanding what is also behind the coal that I'll come on to talk about in a moment. The Green Deal missions are set out as part of how Horizon Europe, the next framework programme, will drive in a very specific way the transformations that need to take place for a number of the Green Deal policies to happen. So there are 5 missions, 4 of which are Green Deal missions, and they're basically 4 big moonshots, or colleagues, Johan Rockström refers to them as earth shots, ways of actually using research innovation to force a dramatic acceleration, high impact transition at systemic level in key areas which the whole future of our economy, society and ecosystems are depending on having things happen and happening in real places. And these documents have been published about 2 weeks ago, the European Research Innovation Days. I strongly recommend all of you to have a look at them. They're a great read apart from anything else in terms of the hope. We brought together these mission boards, top people from right around Europe to look at, okay, how would we actually deal with these big problems? And they will lead to massive research and innovation driven moonshot initiatives following a decision that the Commission will take in December to launch these. So the 4 Green Deal missions are indicated here, and we should come back and look at them again, as I said, in another day. Adaptation to climate change, including societal transformation. What does that mean? I'll come to that in a moment, but it's, if you take the unavoidable, inescapable changes that we have to live with for the foreseeable future, however successful we are on mitigation, if you take sea level rise, extreme weather, forest fires, floods, droughts, heat waves, public health issues, and all of that involves the Connie Hedegaard and the mission board team there have been looking at how do you turn that into an actionable program, and they've talked about a 3-level approach where you have every part of Europe by 2030 will have gone through its process of identifying the specific climate adaptation challenges that are there for them. There will be 200 regions that are working in depth to try and develop solutions together. So people who have forest fire risks in Greece and Portugal and Sweden and Poland will be working together. People who've got problems around drought, or floods and water management will be working together in different parts of Europe, and so forth. Soil health and food, chaired by Kay Spearman, and which was very much kicked off by Phil Hogan, was to look at the restoration of the soil system, which is fundamentally eroded. 1/5 of the soil in Italy, for example, is out of production in the last 20 years. So to restore 70% of the soil by 2030 in the European Union, and in doing that, to address the issues of pesticides and nutrients and water and biodiversity and decarbonisation. Climate neutral and smart cities, there we're talking about regenerating 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030. So moving from abstract concepts and technologies to actually working with 100 cities across Europe to work on the practical business of learning how to do this. And then healthy ocean, seas, coastal inland waters, which is called the Starfish 2030 mission. In that mission, we're looking at what's called the hydrosphere, the entire water system from rivers and into the sea basins and the oceans, and looking at 5 of the big issues there, including obviously the massive issues around ecosystems and pollution, but also in terms of how we work to develop the economy that is leading around the basin in a sustainable way, where huge numbers of people are facing a crisis. The role of these systems in decarbonisation and the climate cycle, and actually moving forward on the knowledge base that's needed to observe and predict. So wherever you are in Ireland, on the island of Ireland, Northern Ireland, or in Ireland in the south, you will be interested in weather and knowing more about weather and knowing, you know, how the weather is behaving and performing. So these Green Deal missions are published in draft form a couple of weeks ago, and they will lead to, I think, a very high level of political engagement to, again, harness research and innovation across Europe and with our international partners to work on making these big changes happen. Next, and on the Green Deal missions, we've had some great cooperation. Peter Hafford and Kevin O'Connor in particular done a great job on the mission boards. So that takes you a little bit in the context, the policy context, where we're moving, preparing for Horizon Europe, we're moving to more of a mission-based approach, and we come to the European Green Deal call. I suppose I should explain a little bit how this happened. I don't know where you live and where you work, but where I work in Brussels, every Friday, the teenagers would march past within a block of my building, and we would go out and just talk with them about the role of science and research and innovation, and indeed European public service in engaging in what they were talking about, which is there's, you know, no planet B and it's time to act. And the urgency was the thing that kept coming across. I said, yeah, we're here because the research and innovation people have provided the science for the IPCC and a lot of the solutions, but we need to start moving now. We need to prevent things from getting worse. We need to act more urgently. And I actually found myself, this is my own role in this, I found myself at one of my jobs to deal with the Arctic circle and the science around that. I was at a meeting there where we were looking at the whole issue around climate and ecosystems with the local Sami people and some of the countries that were there at high level. And outside this meeting were these young people, a mixture of indigenous people and students, who were absolutely freezing themselves in the cold to do what the students had been doing every Friday in Brussels, to draw our attention and say, now, what can you do now? And talking to them, you know, they were, you know, very supportive of the scientific and research innovation community, people like you. But they said, we need something now. We need to do something now. And I came back to talk to my colleagues in Brussels and said, well, what could we do? What could research and innovation do now, alongside all of the longer term things that we're doing to really move things forward? And out of that came a discussion involving 15 departments of the Commission, looking at the Green Deal and looking at the end of Horizon 2020 and saying, is there something we could do that could really, in each of the 8 areas of the Green Deal and the critical conditions for making them happen on citizen engagement and knowledge and so forth, could we really do one big push to take that forward? And that's where the Green Deal call came from. And in those conversations, we've ended up with the call that you'll see today and tomorrow in Brokerage, which I think is unique in its kind, but it's a harbinger of the way in which we'll be trying to work in the future. So this webinar today is a great opportunity for you to understand how it works, to see the opportunity, to be brave, to broker deals with people, to meet with people, to build partnerships, and to work with people you've never thought of working with before. So you see the Green Deal call here. It's pretty straightforward when you see the policy lines of the Green Deal. We have here, the call is organised according to the 8 policy areas of the European Green Deal. And it has then 2 specific areas which are cross-cutting to deal with, as I said, the conditions of success, which are about strengthening the knowledge base where it's required, and also for developing citizen engagement. And on this last point, you very often have this discussion between different kind of researchers and scientists and actors, and social scientists very often saying, you know, how do we get involved here? One of the single biggest challenges we're going to have in this great transition that we're embarking on together is how do we get people involved in the kind of decision-making process, which by definition is long-term, systemic, complex, and difficult to quantify for people. And there's a huge issue here. We need to find new ways of involving people in making these decisions. There's a huge challenge to do this on a scale that has never been done before. And if we look at the world we're living in, which is so short-termist and individualist and populist in the wrong way. It'd be nice if sustainability and fairness was populist. But we find the mistrust in the systems of decision making right at the moment where we have to make the most known and fundamental decisions we have to make. It's a bit like if you're standing around, it was 1830 or 1840, and you know the Industrial Revolution is coming, that there's a fundamental reorganization of resources and the economy and society and the planet and all the rest, and you know what needs to be done. That's where we're standing. And I think on our own little island in Ireland and Northern Ireland, we're very good at dealing with difficult challenges, and we understand the issues of the past. And I think one of the great things about this seminar today, this work today, is the habits that we've got into between Northern Ireland and our neighbours in working on the future, in realising that there is an opportunity here to take the knowledge that we have, to build the partnerships and to create solutions and destinations for the future that can be defining for the people who are here and the people who will follow us. So the Green Deal call is about that. It's about organising the process in a way that is focused on a few key ideas. So it is the last call in Horizon 2020. It's for €1 billion. We've had about 6,000 citizen responses in preparing it. It's been, as I said, it's been co-created with 15 of DG colleagues, so 15 of my director colleagues. We sat down with them to talk about all the different things that could or should be done in designing what would be the biggest push that we can have. It is about breakthroughs, and it is about doing things more quickly than we would normally do in a normal research innovation call. So we're trying to get things done that will have an impact within this time frame that leads us to 2030 in particular. It's about impact, and it will be evaluated looking at things like impact. And it is about making sure that we have tangible, scalable, replicable results. And it is also, and I'm threading this through what I'm saying, it is also about how do we do this without leaving people behind? How do we develop? We have an opportunity here to try and build the solutions of the future with a fairer and a juster way of allocating knowledge, resources, solutions, and opportunities for people. So that's also part of the thinking. So the Green Deal call, as you see, you can see the different areas from biodiversity, farm to fork, sustainable and smart mobility, renovating an energy and resource efficient way, mobilizing industry for clean and circular economy, affordable, secure, clean energy, and then this huge opportunity around climate ambition. Next, please. So that's the thank you bit, which I'm getting in early today. And Owen, by the way, who's my colleague who's set all of this up, has done an outstanding job. Thank you, Owen. I want to go into, maybe in looking at this, a couple of examples along the way that may help you in terms of thinking about it. So first, to think about how does knowledge in this kind of world that we're heading into, why is research, innovation, knowledge so important? I'll take one example from climate adaptation, for example. You may have seen a report from the Irish Centre for High-End Computing that's built, based in Waterford, where they provided the modelling and the information, the analysis to show that mid-century, the wind in Ireland at 120 metres will be decreasing, whilst the wind at 10 metres will be increasing. Now, that may be an interesting statistical fact or mathematical projection, but wind turbines are built at 120 metres of height. And if the wind is getting weaker up there and stronger closer to the ground, there's a very real impact in terms of how you plan for your renewable energy. And indeed, how do you deal with the fact that there will be more storm surges and sea level challenges in wind production and so forth. So it's a very interesting example of how the kind of applied knowledge of research innovation can actually help in addressing the longer term transitions and investments that need to be made. And in the climate adaptation mission, we will have 100 deep demonstrators to deal with these kind of issues, to allow us to see how do we approach, and not simply the knowledge and the public engagement, but the investment that is required and is available. As I said, there's 1.7 trillion euros being made available to green our way and digitally green our way out of this crisis. I give two examples in the call. If you take, for example, building and renovating in an energy and resource efficient way, this part of the call links to a renovation wave initiative that will be adopted tomorrow by the Commission. I think they're going to call it the new Bauhaus, for example. And this area of the call seeks to deliver large-scale, real-life demonstrations of promising technology, process, and social innovations in different EU regions, dealing with issues like green design, energy efficiency, smart home services, and green neighbourhood living labs. It's an excellent example which is both of an area that's both integral to achieving climate neutrality and better outcomes for people, and given that buildings account for about 40% of energy consumption in the EU, there's a huge opportunity to have a tangible impact on people's day-to-day lives. So the renovation wave tomorrow will talk about a particular focus on schools, hospitals, social housing, trying to reduce energy poverty and experience the benefits of positive climate action. In other words, we can literally build back better. And there'll also be a huge amount of job creation, which will be badly needed for retrofitting older buildings, the construction of new ones, the manufacturing of new innovative materials, including bio-based materials, where Ireland is doing very well. It's an example in this call of how to move that area forward using research innovation. We're not waiting around for the policy to be in place and then see what happens in a few years' time. We've got to get moving now. Another example is the 2030 biodiversity strategy. The boundaries that we're dealing with are not simply about the warming of the planet. We're losing 1 million species if we don't react quickly to the direct and indirect causes of biodiversity loss. There are huge opportunities for ecosystem services. That will be the next economy. The green economy will be the next economy, the one that actually helps us to resolve the tensions between the biosphere, the economy, and society, is where the economy will go next. So if you look at another call area in the call called Restoring Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, you can see that at one level this is to support the new EU 2030 biodiversity strategy and the future EU nature restoration plan. So alongside the renovation wave for the buildings, we're working on a restoration wave for ecosystems, and we will need to do them at scale. We're going to need to be able to deal with river systems and large systems of wetlands and coastlands and bogs, forest reforestation, and in the aquatic environment as well, what is going to need to be done with seagrasses and so forth. There's a huge amount of opportunity there. This call will demonstrate transformational change through large-scale ecosystem restoration, delivering visible results on land and at sea, including via nature-based solutions. I was talking to colleagues yesterday in Trinity who had a call on this, and nature-based solutions is an area where there's huge opportunities for people like yourselves to look at what could be done in developing real solutions. So it's linked, of course, to the fact that biodiversity, the GDP dependence on nature is calculated at around 40 trillion euros. I think that's an area where the next Nobel Prize winners for economics might come from, is how do we actually put a value on nature and capital and the opportunity cost. And it's undermining not simply the planet that we're on, but our food security, including in the European Union, where we see the Rhine River, for example, dropping levels in the heart of our inland transport and food production belt, needs to be looked at. But it's also linked with the bioeconomy, the sustainable bioeconomy, where there's huge opportunities for both economic growth, the circular economy, and enhanced environmental protection in rural and regional areas. And that is an area where I know there's a huge amount of work will go on in the coming days. So I better stop, because there's an awful lot to say here. I think in the bleak midwinter that we have on COVID, this is one of those couple of days when you have a chance to make something happen by doing the brokerage, by finding partners, by building a case for this evaluation, this process that will take place. And I'm reminded as I finish between two Irish poets who came to mind this week, One is the late great Derek Mahon, who died at the weekend, and the other is Seamus Heaney, who I did a lot of work on when I was a boy. And the image, I would say, we don't have to be like the mushrooms in the disused shed in County Wexford of Derek Mahon's poem, waiting in the dark for the light. It's more an opportunity here for research and innovation to be the GPS to 2030 and 2050, the people who do actually do what Heaney said and what Biden says, which is we've got to make history and hope rhyme. Thank you very much, Garrett. I hope that's of some use.
Thank you, John. So just a number of things before we let you go. Firstly, colleagues, I know many of you have been joining and there's been some difficulties, so I just want to reiterate a couple of points. In particular, if you have meetings which are outstanding to confirm, can you please go into the system and confirm them on B2Match? There is now 1,500 meetings pending with 3,000 scheduled. So it's slowly ticking up, but the more you can do, the better. And then, as we said earlier, if you could please use the Twitter handle and get those market research and innovation opportunities out there to the wider world. We're also willing, because we have a few minutes, to take policy questions for John as distinct from questions on the call specifically. So if anybody has any high-level policy questions, feel free to put them into the question box. But John, just while I'm giving people a chance to do that, when you look at these documents, and even when you look at them as an NCP, the sheer size of them and complexity, what's your advice to newcomers on how to approach the Green Deal and this agenda going forward?
There are two things, Garrett. One is to talk to your NCPs. I mean, this may seem blindingly obvious. You're very well served where you are. I know this across Europe. It's the critical element. And if you don't have clarity with your NCPs, of course, they can get back to us centrally. If things aren't clear, the whole process has been grounded in engaging with citizens and so forth. Usually to trust your instincts and to work with people that you trust who understand how to put teams together. But I think be innovative. Don't be afraid. Don't do the predictable thing. Don't look for the easy way that you think will keep some obscure faceless bureaucrats, somewhere in Brussels, sleeping during the day. This is really about giving it your best. And I think the angles that I've mentioned a little bit there, which will come out in the text. I mean, with any text from Brussels, from our colleagues, you just read what is there, what it says. If things are not clear, Garrett, you and your colleagues just get on to us, and you have Owen and myself are the people at the centre of the Green Deal call. I'm responsible for the Green Deal team and research and innovation, and we'll find a way of getting you clear answers. But be bold, build partnerships, work across borders. Try and bring your solutions mentality. So think in terms of impact, not in terms of input. Would be a very important kind of way. And think about the people who are evaluating these calls. And they read what's there, and they will not be looking for business as usual.
You mentioned impact and the importance of articulating that. What, in terms of bringing everybody together for this kind of call, and I have to say this because it's an EEN event, and for EEN, while we love researchers, we also love smaller companies and startups. What's your vision of kind of the three blocks in terms of researchers, larger industry and small industry, and the role they have to play?
I think it'll very much depend on the specificity of the topics in some of the calls. So I think it's critical, it always is critical, and we've been getting better and better at this, in mobilizing SMEs to get into these calls. And just a shout out here, if I'm allowed to use that expression as an EU official, yes. to the EEN, who are doing a fantastic job. I know we had some problems plugging things in together before this event, but they're doing a fantastic job here. And that is going to be even more essential. Most of the businesses that are going to arise at any scale are going to start small. And I think that it's critical. There's very often when you're trying to put together different levels of TRL, for example, you'll have a lot more solutions focused people at the level of the SMEs. But you may find in some of the calls, for example, if you're talking about a breakthrough electrolyzer in hydrogen, that's a very specific, specialized area where I imagine very specific energy companies and research institutes will already be working in that area. So I think a lot of the issue here is we're not really that interested in generating papers out of this call. There will be a lot of papers generated. We want solutions, and that's really and solutions come by bringing together the people who know about the pure research or the modeling or the algorithms, the people who are working in terms of new business solutions or business models, the people who work in that applied space in between the two. I think look and see. I don't think people are. I mean, as I said, always read the small print in the calls. It's pretty obvious advice. But I think people are really looking at how can the impact be delivered as distinct from some kind of other metric.
And I think another question I'm getting here is there any comment on the Africa call and alignment with, I suppose, third and associated countries and the wider world?
Well, by definition, we want and encourage the engagement and the involvement of international partners wherever possible. Africa is now a strategic focus, geopolitical focus of the European Union. We have a long-standing relationship in this part of Horizon with the African Union in areas like food and nutrition security, for example. And here there's a huge area going on energy. The nature of this, I mean, when I sit in our program committee for Horizon 2020, we have all kinds of neighbours and partners who are working with us around the greater parts of Europe, from the Arctic down to the Mediterranean. So I think it's always good to bring others in and to have as much variety and as many people applying their minds to this. And whether you're on the Bosphorus in Turkey, or you're dealing with the Arctic Ocean or the Atlantic in Connemara, we got to get everybody around the table here, circle the wagons, and find solutions.
The obvious Brexit question has been asked in terms of whether the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland will be included in Horizon Europe, but I'm going to let a pass on that because it's unknown at this stage, I think, is probably the answer.
Great. I don't know, you tell me, Gareth.
So,
I think
the other issue, which is
something on that. Can I say something on that? So this is for a start, this is Horizon 2020. So, you know, we're one big happy family and everybody's involved in Horizon 2020 this call. So please, 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 our colleagues and friends in United Kingdom, Northern Ireland and the rest, please be actively involved and so forth. This is real. I mean, just those of you who are there who are looking at this and the difficulty this moment, you know, research is about building bridges, and it is about cooperation, and it's about collaboration. And we will do everything that we can in the period ahead to work together and continue to work together in finding these kind of solutions. Now, what form it takes in terms of whatever the people who will finally make a decision or not make a decision will have, we will see. But you can rest assured, you'll see at Michel Barnier, and particularly on the island of Ireland, there's an absolute commitment of the European Union, all its institutions, to do everything that we can to build on this extraordinary achievement of changing the context in the island of Ireland. And so whatever happens with the specific nature of whatever they decide in the coming months, rest assured that research and innovation people are bridge builders, they're not wall builders.
Another question I'm getting there, John, which actually I suppose is another reoccurring theme, particularly in this area, as you touched on what will happen in relation to Horizon Europe. How do you see the difference between, or the linkage between, the clusters and the missions?
That's actually an issue that's under discussion at the moment. So the regulatory basis for the missions provides that up to 10% of the second pillar of Horizon Europe, so you have the European Research Council basic research, you have what used to be the societal challenges, which are kind of the clusters now, which are to address these big policy issues, and then you have the innovation part, the European Innovation Council. So the second pillar, where we find ourselves, the idea is that up to, it doesn't mean that we have to, but up to 10% of the second pillar could be used to fund the missions. I think the important thing about the missions, and this is if you look at, I don't know if it's still online, but the Research and Innovation Days of the European Commission, there was, I think a lot of it was recorded, it's probably still there. Have a look at what was said. Each of the mission chairs, Pascal Lamy, Connie Hedegaard, Kees Veerman, and so forth, explained their thinking. And their thinking is that it's research and innovation driven. but the huge money comes outside of research and innovation. So, you know, if you're going to do, I don't know, if you want to do with a river level ecosystem restoration project, the Danube, for example, you're not going to do it with, you know, with all the best will in the world, you know, cluster 6 funding. What we would be doing, though, the missions would be saying, look, this is the kind of knowledge we need to mobilize. This needs to work with these structural funds and those investments and these cities and these regions. And so the missions will be organized in a way that they'll move forward out of research and innovation and into the other instruments. And between now and December, there's a political discussion taking place in the Commission to identify how do we launch which missions and in what way, and how do they have with them the commitment of, for example, member states. Member states have responsibility, for example, for climate adaptation measures. But actually, none of us are going to be able to test and demonstrate and do things at scale if everybody's just hoping that they can do the best they can possibly do. So we have to find a way on, take climate adaptation, on sea level rise, for example, or forest fires, that we create a research and innovation space that drives deep demonstrators across Europe, which will be funded by other instruments, and the knowledge and the data and the modelling and everything else, the solutions will be shared. So it'll be a new form of cooperation, and I would guess it will be incrementally increased depending on what the take-up is, because at the end of the day, the missions are not simply here's a load of research and innovation and let's hope it makes a difference. They really have to be leveraging and driving other EU and other instruments. So we'll see by December, there'll be a communication on the missions in December. But as I said, Garrett, your colleagues who are there, they may think it's a bit abstract, but they should just read these 5 documents or whichever ones are interesting. They're very practical. You can see the research innovation agendas in them when you read them.
There's a couple of questions here, and I'll just bring them into one, which is if you could just give me a little more on that balance, as you talked about impact being really important and that innovation piece. What's that balance between research and innovation? It's coming up as a question from quite a few of the panelists. Well,
I would suggest that if people can give us some feedback from this event, which would be very helpful, there may be areas where it's very clear and areas where it's not clear. And I would like to know where it's not clear. Because I know people tend to panic because they have to go back to whoever they have to go back to, and they're being asked, what do we write? You know, what do we put down here? Do we put most of our application here or there? I think it very much depends on the nature of the call. And I think if things are basically not clear as to what that balance is in specific parts of the program, feel free to get back to us and tell us, because I don't want to give a one size fits all. But the thinking behind the call is impact. It's actually driving solutions, and the solutions could be a business model. Look at Ryanair as the best example of this. You know, if you could reduce Ryanair to a business model, you would say, well, you know, what is that? You know, 30 years ago, you know, on this island of ours, some bloke has this business model where you have relatively cheap suits and an algorithm and, you know, basic, you know, bus level transport. You say, what is that? But actually, it has fundamentally revolutionized the way in which. So it could be a business model, it could be technology. I think depending on the topic and the call, but if you see, Garrett, out of the conversations that there's a kind of if you're to do a word map, you know, and you saw, look, there's a problem around this particular heat spot in this particular conversations, let us know. That'll be helpful. And I know your NCP networks are very good at working together in getting information that you need to your clients. I think the closing day is the 26th of January, so there's a little bit of time. 26th
of January is D-Day. And just one or two short questions there, John. The issue is come up there about how we measure the success of this green call in totality. So how do we know it's actually had an impact? And how do you advise applicants to integrate that into their proposals?
Well, I think that's starting to become quite technical. If you look across, Garrett, the range of topics. I mean, I am not, as my science teacher, Sing Street, will tell you, an expert in electrolysis in hydrogen.
I think, John, just to be clear, it's more from a policy perspective that you'll have all these different measurements within different calls, but how do we measure the big challenge of what progress we're really making?
Okay, well, I mean, I think there's a logic you can't work teleologically back from I do this and therefore the impact is that, because you're dealing at different levels of scale. But for example, you can take examples. If you're talking about how would you do a restoration, I'll take something random, and I don't mean to create a huge problem in Ireland, but let's imagine you decided to look at the bog in Ireland, which is this hugely important part of Ireland, both for the people who live there and who work there, the people who get their turf there, and the people who do the biodiversity there. Let's imagine that you decided that the bog should be restored over a period of 50 years, creating huge amounts of jobs and a carbon sink and a biodiversity paradise, and a place that lots of people would want to be involved in. You can credibly make a case for a project in restoration around that says, look, we know here that there's an issue around these kind of emissions, this kind of biodiversity, you know, and therefore it's reasonable to expect that if we were to do this in this way with these actors, with these impacts and these results, it would make a credible contribution to a problem that is relevant in terms of both ecosystems and carbon neutrality. I'm not asking for a topic on the restoration of the Irish bogs. I'm just using it as a random example, but I think there are different levels that you can only evaluate what you can evaluate. And at project level, you can only evaluate what's at project level. A lot of the knowledge is there already. And I mean, the impact potentially here will be at the project level in terms of the deliverables, in terms of the grant agreements that people have. But I would suspect that a number of the project deliverables will be the beginning of new areas of work that in some cases are scalable, replicable, and have a more, what do you call it, general interest. You know, how do you do? So, I mean, I made the point about citizens engagement.
Yeah, I was about to come to that again.
How do you do that? How do you, I mean, I don't have an answer, and you know, the European Union is the last place in the world we're going to give a lecture to anybody on how to credibly convince everybody that, you know, we're all doing the right thing. But, you know, this is a huge challenge for political science, for decision makers, for investment. How do you even think about risk and investment if the parameters of what science is going to tell us? If you take, I've been doing a lot of work on the ocean initiatives, for example. If you take what seemingly unconnected science in terms of what's going on in the deep ocean currents in the mid-Atlantic, what the possible range of outcomes are from that to where would you build your cities and what would they need to look like and how high would your seawalls need to be and so forth, and what kind of plants you might grow in where you live if you're in Scotland or in Spain in 60 years time. I think impacts can be self-evident if they're clearly done, but I would leave you in the hands of more people who are more specifically engaged with the specific topics on this. But if there are things, as I said, we'll come back on it. Huh?
Yeah, and I think that is the last question, actually, John, which you've kind of touched on there, which is the citizen engagement piece. And I think what I'm taking from you there is you're looking for innovation on citizen engagement, and you're looking for ways of doing things.
How are we going to do this? And like, I think so much of what has to happen is place-based and people-based. And it's a bit facile to say that, but an awful lot of what we do has been abstract. And what we have to do now is actually change the places where people live and work and the ecosystems they're in and the way in which we move around. As we've seen in this bloody COVID thing, we are adaptable, we are resilient, we are quite, you know, able to adapt. We now have a chance to say, okay, where I live, if I'm in an agricultural community, for example, you know, if I'm the food production system, how are we going to do food? And how do we involve farmers and producers and so forth? If I'm talking about, you know, the city I come from the centre of Dublin. How would you do sea level rise planning in a city? I mean, it's not for the guys who know about sea level rise. You know, it's not for the people who you know, who are the estate agents who are selling beautiful seafront properties in Sandymount and Clontarf. You know, if the solution is we need to build I don't know, a wetland island or a barrage across from, you know, Howth to Dunleary, I'm not proposing these. These are just, how would you make decisions like that? What kind of deliberative decision-making processes could we test and demonstrate that work in this age of misinformation and mistrust and so forth, that are long-term? I mean, just think about it. How do we just say, let's just leave it to the experts and the elites? I don't think that's an answer that's going to fly with a lot of people. So, as you say, who knows? Huh? But there's some great minds there and some great actors and thinkers there who'll have answers, no doubt.
So look, John, thank you very much. I think I've touched on all the higher kind of policy level type questions there. And as I've said to attendees, the NCPs will deal with specifics in relation to TRLs in the next section. So John, that leaves me to thank you for your energy and enthusiasm and attending today for us. And I suppose not only did you get an overview of the Green Deal, but you also got a tip for the next Nobel Peace Prize, or Nobel Science Economics Prize. So everybody can go out and take a bet on that and see where we go. And I think for me, what I've taken, I think that citizen engagement piece and that role of social science and, you know, the need to all engage in a cross-cutting way are the themes I've taken from much of what you've said this morning.
Yeah, and keep doing what you're doing there and doing so well. Just keep at it, you know.
Yeah.
And now you have your Nobel.
we're
Thanks,
very
Garrett.
attendance, and we look forward to doing more with you on the Green Deal as we roll into Horizon Europe.
Look forward to that, and thanks to Vicky as well. Cheerio.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Have a good session. Bye-bye.
Okay, hello everyone. So the plan now is to go on to our NCP presentations. And as I say, we'll go through each section of the Green Deal call in some detail, which will hopefully answer most of your questions. You'll be able to also get most of the answers from your own NCPs, but if there's anything in particular, we will get it from the chat and we will come back and respond to you. Or if it's a very high level question, which might interest many people, we'll try and interject and answer it on the occasion now. Okay, many thanks. I'll hand over to Mark.
Thank you, Garrett, and good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Sweeney, and I work for Enterprise Ireland as an NCP with a specific focus on the Societal Challenge 5, or Climate Action, Environment, Resource Efficiency and Raw Materials Work Programme. This work programme also underpins and supports many areas of the Green Deal call. Area 1 of this call focuses on increasing climate ambition. It's in line with the EU's long-term vision for climate neutrality. This area addresses research and innovation needs for both climate mitigation and climate adaptation. And there are 3 call topics, the first of which aims to address the problem of extreme wildfires in Europe. Before we move on to the next slide, a point of information: the budgets indicated in red refer to the envisaged contributions per proposal, and the figure on the right is the overall budget per topic. So that pertains to all the slides in the presentation. So next, please. Wildfires are becoming an increasing concern, and not just in Southern Europe. In addition to the tragic cost to human life, there are also huge impacts in terms of economic damages, ecosystem degradation, and huge biodiversity losses. So moreover, it is estimated that wildfires contribute to 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions every year. Next. The aim of this call is to deliver tailored and effective solutions, co-designed with end users in pilot sites across various European locations. So the new context of extreme wildfires requires accelerating the shift towards implementing a more holistic fire management approach. So incorporating a range of high impact activities, some of which are described in this graphic of the integrated fire management process. So everything from biomass management, new research and innovation activities into new technologies, to emergency management and urban and land planning activities. Next. Activities are further described in the call text under 3 categories, and proposals should cover all of the fire management phases. So under area A, prevention and preparedness activities, for example, could include better landscape and fuel management practices. Area B is on the detection and response activities. So again, looking at new innovative technologies for detection, targeting and extinction of fires. And area C is on restoration and adaptation. So aiming here to demonstrate suitable post-fire solutions to restore damaged ecosystems and restore the biodiversity. Next. Okay, in terms of expected impacts, the call outlines several targets which are to be achieved by 2030, and most of them are in the slide there. So targets in terms of fatality reduction, or minimal fatalities if possible, reduction in accidental ignitions, reduction in emissions, infrastructure loss, and an increase in the fire resilience of areas under threat. Proposals should also contribute to European policy and associated platforms, for example, the Civil Protection Mechanism or Copernicus Emergency Services. And finally, the international dimension of wildfire should be considered. So cooperation with a variety of countries such as the US, Russia, Australia, Indonesia, that's non-exhaustive, is encouraged. Next. The second topic in Area 1 targets cities. So cities occupy 2% of the planet's landmass, yet consume over 65% of the world's energy and account for over 70% of global emissions. So they will play, obviously, a crucial role in making the Green Deal happen. The objective of this topic is to support cities and local communities in the transition towards climate neutrality in a socially inclusive way. So the call aims to establish, and it mentions in the call text, a one-stop shop in partner cities to help them implement their climate action plans. One important thing here is it should also be noted that only one project will be funded under this topic. The project should be responsible for the management of competitive calls addressed to third parties to fulfill the objectives of this action. So it's quite a complex call with a very large budget. The platform should coordinate activities in terms of climate neutrality for cities and should be self-sustained beyond the life of the funded project. So what are we looking for here? The action aims for a rapid and full-scale deployment of systemic integrated climate actions at city or district level in order to reach climate neutrality by 2030. And it should look at an integrated package of measures covering all sectors. So everything from health, water, food, industry, housing, transport. And this should all be underpinned by circular and nature-based and digital solutions. They're all critical enablers. So the proposal should address all of the following 4 activities. Looking at the development of the city climate action plan. So there needs to be commitment from the participant cities in this. Looking at investment and financing solutions, social innovation and citizen engagement is very, very important. And activity 4, the research and innovation activities, the development of innovative solutions for the climate neutral transformation of cities. Next slide, please. This slide is really just some additional information on activity 4. This activity area will support an open call for proposals to support large-scale pilot solutions, so large-scale innovations in cities. And the pilots will also support twinning and mentoring with other cities. So a few unusual components here. The costs associated with the pilots can range from between, or should range from between 500,000 to 1.5 million euros. But under this call, financial support to third parties beyond the usual 60,000 euro is allowed. One important thing to note in this project is that the budget of 53 million euro, well, 60% of this budget should be allocated to cover activities under activity 4 in relation to the funding of third parties. So there's quite a significant budget there for pilot solutions. Next slide. Whilst topic 2 focused on climate mitigation, the third topic in area 1 aims to improve climate adaptation and resilience at a regional level in the European Union. So projects funded in this area will act as early facilitators for the 4 missions on adaptation to climate change, oceans, cities, and soil. Next. This slide here is this slide is a graphical representation of the call structure. The call has 2 subtopics. The first is an innovation action and should focus on the development of large innovation packages to transform climate adaptation in a target region. Proposals under this topic should aim at enabling rapid and far-reaching change through the development of regional specific and large portfolios of research and innovation solutions that are mature enough for demonstration. And these could include, for example, again, non-exhaustive, nature-based solutions, other new innovative technologies, innovative financing measures and business models, insurance models, new ways of doing business here, and governance models also. So the second topic just down the bottom of the graphic there is a coordination and support action, which should support the implementation and dissemination of the solutions in subtopic 1. So it's kind of a supporting platform. Next. The innovation packages in this project or proposal should cover the key community systems. So again, health, primary production, including agriculture, forestry, fisheries, aquaculture, water, energy and transport. So it's quite a large list of key systems there. They should also target regions, and this is very important, they should also target regions with the highest exposure and or the least adaptive capacity. So regions in need where there, problems exist at present. So activities under subtopic 2 should focus on citizen engagement as well as developing indicators to monitor and assess the innovation packages. So very much a support activity there. Next. The main impacts envisaged from this topic are to foster transformative change in terms of adaptive resilience in these areas, and to support the EU Green Deal targets, in particular the EU strategy on adaptation to climate change and the EU biodiversity, bioeconomy and circular economy strategies. Proposals funded under subtopic 1 should result, again in the call text this is mentioned and specified, a massive increase, so very large increases in community resilience. So solutions, so we're looking for very impactful projects here. While under subtopic 2, proposals should improve knowledge access through synergies with existing platforms, so platforms like Climate Adapt or Copernicus. So I'll now hand you over to my colleague and Energy NCP, Philip Cheesty, who will brief you on Area 2. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Philip Cheesty, Energy NCP. I'm looking at Area 2, which also is funded by the Energy Work Programme, part of Horizon 2020. So that should give a focus on the areas of what you should be developing in the proposals. So there's 3 topics in Area 2. So if we're going to decarbonize the energy system by 2050, we're going to need more renewables, we're going to need more integration with the energy grid, and we're going to need more development of the energy vectors such as hydrogen and link those into the energy grid as well. So with that, there's 3 topics. First one is looking at renewables onshore and offshore. There's 2 subtopics there. The second one is looking at development of hydrogen, and the third topic is looking at energy in partnership with Africa. Next. So if we start with the first topic in Area 2, it's GD21. It has 2 subtopics, and the first subtopic is a research and innovation action. So that's a low TRL, low technology readiness level, and that is TRL 4 to 5. So 5 is a prototype developed in its relevant environment. So it's looking at development of land-based renewable energy technologies and their integration into the energy system. So we're back to the renewables and energy system integration. Now it's looking at 2 specific areas. The first area is district heating and cooling, and the second area is the cogeneration of heat and power. So you're looking at innovative solutions in these particular areas. But it's about combining these areas with either renewable sources or renewable technologies. So you have to combine 2 or more renewable sources and or 2 or more renewable technologies. So for example, if you're looking at solar power, the 2 technologies could be PV or concentrated solar power. And for the cogeneration heat and power, the system has to be greater than 2.5 megawatts. So something quite significant that will affect the overall energy system. In terms of impacts, it's about replication. So replication potential, and replication potential will be key to all the topics that will come up today. So you're talking about affordable, reliable, secure and flexible systems, and that need to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, air pollutants and fossil fuel usage. Next. So the second subtopic in GD21 is an innovation action. So we're moving up the TRL levels, up to TRL. So you have to demonstrate to TRL 7, which is it's in an operational environment. And so here we're at sea, so it's quite targeted. So you can look at offshore renewable energy power generation systems. So whether it be wind, wave, tidal, but at sea, it can be either floating or fixed substructures. But also, you can also look at grid infrastructure. So then again, that's at sea with a real-life demonstration of innovative direct current and AC/DC hybrid technologies and the associated component parts such as power inverters, etc. Now, you may also include power to X, which could be storage systems, it could be hydrogen development. So this is a sort of it's a way to make the system more resilient, more reliant. So that's a may include a feature of the core. Next. So subtopic 2, which is the offshore or the grid, must also or should also address, because it's an innovation action, you're looking at the full value chain. So you should also address the manufacturing processes, the regulating market and financial challenges. And you should be looking at the planning and acceptance issues. So with offshore energy, some of the big issues are getting a link to the grid. So there should be no risks in those because the Commission are interested in starting these projects early 2022. Grant agreements will probably be signed by end of 2021. We need to be starting early 2022. So they don't need any risks with connecting to the grid or having some environmental issues. A feature of the topic is that there's a go, no-go decision before deployment. So for the successful projects, once they define and design their project, after probably about 12 months, there will be a bunch of experts who will have a look at what's planned and there will be a go, no-go decision before deployment. So again, that's about risk analysis. And in terms of impact, it's all about rolling out large-scale deployment of offshore renewable energy along the value chain. So you have to demonstrate all potential impacts in this area. So it's an innovation action. So quite a holistic view of the energy. So next. So the second topic is about hydrogen. So if we want to decarbonize the system, we have to have more energy vectors. We also have, hydrogen is seen as sort of a key player in very large industry, in large industry plants, in ports, etc., and also in transport. So this topic is about developing and demonstrating a 100 megawatt electrolyzer, upscaling the link between renewables and commercial and industrial applications. It's an innovation action. So there's 60 million euros available, and the project indication is around 25 to 30 million. So maybe 2 or 3 projects to be funded. So it's about using renewables as a source to produce hydrogen and use it in a commercial industrial application. Now, the current state of the art is probably around 20 megawatts. I think there's a project funded by the Fuel Cells and Hydrogen joint undertaking. That's around 20 megawatts. And in Japan, they're doing some large-scale electrolyzers for creating hydrogen for cars. But again, they're at small scale. This is about putting everything together to come up with a 100 megawatt electrolyzer system. You can go back again there a sec. Sorry. It's a real-life condition, so it's in a port or an industrial application. And you can also use the excess heat or the vented oxygen. So again, an innovation action, so to use all the energy vectors in the application. Next. The other activities that can be part of the proposal looks at the economic analysis, the safety and social and societal impacts in the environmental assessments. You need to look at the cost effectiveness and the footprint size of the actual installation, and then there's health and safety issues. Also water usage. So obviously, like with electrolysis, the cost of the water, the societal usage of water, etc. There's a requirement for knowledge sharing. So when you look through the text, you're required to run a number of workshops. So these will have to be done in a number of EU countries. Now, a feature of this particular topic is, even though it's an innovation action, which are normally 70% funded, this is only 50% funded because hydrogen developmental electrolyzers are seen as quite close to market. So it's 50% funded for the industrial partners, but still 100% funded for research organizations or not-for-profit organizations. The project's expected to be over 5 years, and you need 2 years of operation. And as with the offshore renewable topic, there's a go decision before deployment. And if the technology readiness level is to bring it to TRL 8. So that's 2 steps off the market and in full operational application. Next. So the impacts are quite targeted, and they're technically specific and also in terms of financially specific. So the topic is targeting 2 types of the electrolyzers. So you have the polymer membranes and you have the alkaline water solution. So you're looking for efficiency levels, current density, the capital expenditure reduction in terms of euros per kilowatt. You can see the figures there, but you can go through the text itself, and also the long-term degradation of the unit. So percentage degradation per 1,000 hours. So it's quite specific. And also there's a levelized cost of energy of 40 euros per megawatt. And that's in conjunction with the renewables as the source. And then the cost of green hydrogen is at 3 euros per kilogram. So quite specific in terms of technical impacts. Also lower footprint and operational environmental impacts. Next. So the third topic, again, it's renewable energy. This time it's in partnership with Africa, and it was mentioned by John earlier on in his presentation about cooperation, international cooperation. And there's been a number of EU strategy platforms and structures to work with Africa, and this is part of it. It's accelerating the green transition and energy access partnership with Africa. So there's 40 million euros available. It's an innovation action, so projects are expected to be between 5 and 10 million. So there could be quite a number of projects funded here. So there's good opportunities. So the actions should design, construct, and commission and operate demonstration installations. And you might either target renewable energy sources. Also, you could also target energy efficiency. So with the renewable energy, you could be off-grid, you could be looking at transmission, and again, like the other projects, you could be looking at energy storage. You need to consider a mix of urbanized and rural situations and the ongoing water, energy, food nexus action. So that's quite important in the topic. So if you were using concentrated solar power, and concentrated solar power can have high water usage, so you need to look at that in a social context. So that talks about the application areas that the projects will be targeting. Next. So that's also links to the tailored value chain approach. So wherever you're doing the project, you have to look specific at the issues, the societal issues in the areas where you're going to do the project. It's an innovation action, so you're looking at the life cycle analysis. So you're looking at the cost, and you're looking at the social issues, etc. Now, you have to have at least 2 partners from at least one African country must be part of the consortium. So that's a minimum. And the text also says that a balanced consortium between European and African partners will be considered an asset. So they're looking for quite balanced projects. So also, again, John mentioned the various initiatives with Africa. And earlier this year in Horizon 2020 Energy, we had a call. It was a Joint Action 5. It was a long-term EU-Africa partnership for research and innovation in the area of renewable energy. Now, there was one project selected, and I understand there's actually 100 partners in that particular project. The project is going through grant agreement at the moment, but in the next month or two, it should be public. Hopefully it finishes the grant agreement. And if you do a search for leap-re.eu, there was actually a number of those partners would be part of that consortium. So that would be a good initiative to look at. So that's the joint action call that we had in energy. Next. So for the African project, the impacts are laid out in terms of long-term, medium-term, and short-term. In the short term, they're looking at the technical, reliable, economically viable solutions. They're also looking at climate adaptation and climate mitigation potential of the solutions compared to other technical solutions. So what's the improvement? So remember, these are innovation actions. So you have to be doing something innovative and something holistic in terms of the situation you're putting it into. And also always with replication potential. And that probably would be the key word when you're looking at energy projects, is the replication potential. In the medium term, you need to be looking at the creation of new market opportunities and also about accelerating the achievements of the African continent's targets for the Paris Agreement. And in the longer term, it's about job creation goals, economic growth, etc., both in the EU and African countries. So there's 3 topics in Area 3, and there's 186 million across those 3 topics available. So there's quite a number of opportunities. And like for the African project, you could see 7 or 8 projects funded. And for the offshore, you're looking at 2. There's some research projects, maybe 3 or 4. So plenty of opportunities. So we haven't had much time to go through the detail of the text this morning, but I think what you should look at is the Research and Innovation Days that the Commission held a few weeks ago. The videos are available where the project officers talked about the topics, and they're all up on the Research and Innovation website. You can find them there. And those presentations are nearly an hour in most cases, so there's some good detail. And the other issue is that there's the FAQ development. You'll see those on the funding and tenders portal. So these are areas to keep an eye on, and obviously contact all the NCPs. So that's the end of Area 2. So I'm going to hand over to Kieran Prunty, who will look at Area 3, which is industry for a clean and circular economy. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everyone from Belfast. My name is Kieran Prunty. I'm the Northern Ireland Horizon 2020 contact point for engineering. And I'm just going to introduce the first of 2 topics in Area 3, industry for a clean and circular economy. The first topic is closing the industrial carbon cycle to combat climate change, industrial feasibility of catalytic routes for sustainable alternatives to fossil resources. And the challenge here is to sustainably convert CO2 emissions from industrial processes into synthetic fuels and chemicals, utilizing renewable energy driven processes with novel, highly optimized and energy efficient catalytic systems. The focus is on scaling up these solutions for the energy intensive industries in Europe, such as chemicals, steel, cement, fertilizers, refining, paper and pulp, amongst others. And within scope is to develop and deploy highly innovative recyclable catalytic material systems to facilitate production of sustainable fuels and chemicals from industrial flue gas emissions. Also to develop innovative renewable energy driven catalytic processes to produce synthetic fuels and chemicals, and then also to demonstrate the full value chain for the industrial production of these synthetic fuels and chemicals. I'll just move to the next slide, please. So key on the expected impacts for this topic is that the project should seek to deliver an industrial scale demonstrator operational by 2026. So that's a huge ambition for this project. And the solution should see significant reduction of industrial CO2 emissions with the potential to achieve carbon intensity below 20 grams of CO2 equivalent per megajoule. So you need to bear in mind these requirements from the call text when defining the technological solutions that you're bringing. The project should enable the production of flexible, high energy density storage in the form of chemicals and synthetic fuels to be used for specific industry segments such as aviation, chemicals, shipping, etc. And this call topic will be supporting an innovation action projects that are bringing the core technology from 4 to 5 up to TRL at the end of the project. And the anticipated scale of the projects to be supported here is in the region of 40 million euros with a duration of up to 5 years. And in the funding pot against this, there's 80 million euros, so an ambition to fund at least 2 projects within that. And contact details of myself and Sergio, the Irish NCP, are listed there, so please get in touch if you have any questions or your own NCP. I think the details of how to connect with all the NCPs has been included in the chat function. So I'll now hand you back over to Mark Sweeney to cover out the second topic in this area. And thank you.
Thanks, Kieran. The second topic in this area, just some background, as indicated in the European Green Deal communication, with increasing consumption and growing pressure on resources, there is an urgent need to decouple economic growth from resource use and ensure a swift transition to climate neutral and circular solutions. So Europe needs to increase the resilience and security of its industry and agricultural value chains, particularly in relation to critical raw materials. So that's very problematic at the moment in various value chains. So this call topic is targeting the demonstration of systemic solutions, so systemic wide solutions in the circular economy, including the circular bioeconomy at local and regional scale that can be replicated effectively in other areas. So as mentioned in previous presentations, replication is very, very important here. In particular, a major challenge in this topic scenario would be to effectively apply the circular economy concept beyond traditional resource recovery in the waste and water sectors. So we're looking for more than that. The Commissioner looking for much more than that here, much more cross-sectoral innovation here in terms of systemic solutions. Next, please. Proposals under this topic are expected to implement and demonstrate circular systemic solutions in one, so it's critical here, in one circular territorial cluster. So these circular territorial clusters are geographically cohesive territories comprising all relevant actors in the systemic solution, and they're very much can be cross-border, so borders are not prohibitive to these. What proposals should really concentrate on here in the selection of actors in the cluster would be to make sure that they're clearly justified and also take into account the international dimension of supply chains. So the key product value chains of the new circular economy action plan here should be really prioritized. So one would expect the automotive, electronic, ICT, construction, food and plastics value chains to be key elements of many of the proposals under this topic. Proposals will also form part of the demonstration projects for the implementation of the CCRI, or the Circular Cities and Regions Initiative, which will be implemented in the coming months. So they will be supported by the CCRI in terms of activities of the projects. Next, please. In terms of impacts, proposals should contribute to the decoupling of economic activities from the consumption of finite resources, and greenhouse gas emissions here would be critical also. One of the major impacts should be the creation of jobs in the short to medium term in these value chains, and creating sustainable value chains here also. To facilitate knowledge transfer between the clusters funded. So I think budget should be put aside in these proposals to engage with some of the other projects that will be funded, and to interact and create synergies there that could complement some of the activities within the different clusters. And a very important, and probably one of the most important impacts, would be to facilitate replication of these solutions and scalability of the results to increase the environmental, social and economic benefits of the solution. So really focusing in on impact here and you know, solutions that are scalable. So back to Philip now for area 4. Thank you.
Hi, sorry. So area 4, single topic. So it was mentioned earlier that buildings account for 40% of energy usage worldwide, and the renovation rate is only 1%. And with the European building stock of very old buildings, there's huge potential there to do some work and have some major effects on the greenhouse gases, etc. So area 4, the topic, a single topic, 60 million euros available. It's an innovation action, and the project indications are between 10 and 20 million. And it's building and renovating in an energy efficient way. Next. So it's an innovation action. So you're bringing the work to TRL 7 and 8. So it's a TRL 8 is system complete and qualified. So we're going quite close to the market. Just read the last line in the call text, and it says the relevant indicators and metrics with baseline values should be clearly stated in the proposal. So it's about defining what you're looking at, and with that you have actually 100 pages of a proposal. So it's looking for quite detailed targets. So the proposal should expect to deliver at least 2 large-scale real-life demonstrators of promising technology, process, and social innovations in different regions of Europe. So they're looking for innovation. And you have to target residential and non-residential, new and retrofit. Now, they don't define what large-scale is, but what you should always be looking at is when you're doing your project, be reviewing the impacts listed in the call. So that will sort of determine how close you are to getting something significant. So you need to look at the various aspects. It needs to be scalable, green, and positive energy neighborhoods. Next. So also the aspects to be looked at are energy and resource efficiency. So you're talking about recycling and reuse and replicability and low maintenance costs, and deconstruction issues with buildings. You have to look at sustainable and highly energy efficient buildings. So the call text talks about implementing built-in photovoltaics in the building fabric, etc. It also looks at sustainable, innovative, zero emission and more cost and energy efficient renewable energy generation in buildings. So again, the introduction of renewables, cost efficient renewables into the system. Next. As with most energy projects, the energy storage systems is key. So it talks about maybe reusing motor vehicle battery systems as part of the building fabric. Highly energy efficient building operation with the help of digital technologies. So digitization, so smart meters, etc., smart issues, monitoring, all about demand response. Citizen awareness, social innovation, and promote education and training. You also have to look at the aspects of standards and regulatory aspects. Next. So the impacts are quite specific again, as with most energy projects. You're looking at the primary energy savings in gigawatt hours per year. You have to bring the buildings to actually greater than near zero energy buildings. And you have to be looking at what sort of investments these projects will be looking to build on. So again, it's the replication potential. And again, as with the previous topic, it's all about replication potential. You need high energy performance buildings, reduce CO2, and have to have a 50% reduction in embodied energy in the buildings and air pollution to zero. So you're looking for quicker, cheaper, 30% cheaper buildings in terms of user satisfaction. John mentioned earlier about the renovation wave. So this is a new initiative from the Commission. I think it's to be launched sometime in October. If you do a quick search, you'll find a lot of information there. It's about the renovation buildings. So that's be in terms of where these topics are coming from and the strategies that you need to be looking at. That particular renovation wave is interesting. And you also have to be looking at the energy performance building directives. And another area that's been built on recently is the smart readiness indicator. So this is to do with digitization in terms of buildings, etc. And Horizon Europe is being worked on. There's a number of partnerships linked to Horizon Europe and one of them is built for people. So that's about the buildings. So those four on that slide, there are four areas that you could look to get some good ideas on what you need to be looking at in terms of the project. So with that, I'll hand you over to area 5, which is sustainable and smart mobility. My colleague, Bob Flynn. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Bob Flynn, and I'm the Irish NCP for Transport. So topic 5.1 is titled Green Airport and Ports as Hubs for Sustainable and Smart Mobility. Okay, the specific challenge, let me see my slide now. Okay, the specific challenge for this topic is to reduce EU greenhouse gas emissions across both the aviation and waterborne transport sectors. Both of these are on the increase, and a significant reduction in these figures is required by 2030. Wrong slide, sorry. Okay, I'm missing a slide. Okay. Okay, so the expected impacts, or in other words, what the funded project should aim to achieve, focus on reduced emissions and better energy efficiency. And they include accelerated deployment of sustainable fuels and electromobility, clean energy production and distribution, zero emission ports, energy efficient buildings, and reduced emissions for adjoining cities, including better integration of the transport hubs into the cities and the hinterland. In terms of the scope, proposals should aim to build on best practice, both technological and non-technological, and should address one or two of the areas, either area A, airports, or area B, ports, and not a mixture of the two. In these slides, you'll also see a lot of crossover between maybe what Mark has presented and Philip has presented, especially in area 4. Okay. So for area A, airport proposals should aim for TRL 6 and above and include real-life demonstration. Partners should include one lighthouse airport, in other words, a leader airport and up to 3 follower airports. All 4 aspects listed here need to be addressed, namely transport, the airport terminal, energy, and cross-cutting aspects. For transport, proposals have to consider access and connection to cities and other transport hubs, transport from the terminal to the aircraft, and on the land side, logistics, ground handling operations, and the production and supply of green energy. In addition, several other areas under transport need to be addressed, but you have a bit of a choice here. It includes demonstration of low energy use for the aircraft, ground vehicles, other airport vehicles, drones, for example, and vehicle use to and from the airport. It also looks at innovative aircraft de-icing solutions and the application of digital and satellite solutions such as Galileo to manage traffic flow in and out of the airport. And the promotion of the development of alternate fuel production and infrastructure, intermodal mobility, and novel train airport station ideas. For the terminal, demonstration of integrating low energy and new solutions with the operations, logistics, and infrastructure of the airport, a more eco-friendly build environment and improved energy efficiency, as well as enhanced biodiversity, and consideration of recycling and the circular economy. For energy, demonstration of green energy production facilities and how possible industrial scale biofuel refineries may be used to produce alternative fuels, and also identifying incentives and ways to promote alternative fuels to the aviation sector, as well as assessing the scalability of any sort of new energy solutions developed. Cross-cutting aspects include the very relevant, I suppose, air quality both inside and outside the terminal, as well as noise production, ICT and satellite solutions, again, Galileo for airport and asset management, sustainability of the airports in the context of the circular economy, taking into account any institutional or governance aspects, viable market solutions to reduce food waste, and then assessment of non-technical solutions which can provide types of financial incentives to implement these low energy solutions, and then developing and promoting new airport stakeholder governance arrangements. Okay, moving on to green airports. Green airports, similar to the airports, green ports rather, similar to the airports, proposals should address TRL 6 and higher and must include a real-life demonstration. Again, one lighthouse port required with up to 3 follower ports, but this time there's a necessity to include 1 inland port. And if you want a definition of an inland port, you can go to there's a website for the 10T program, and you can find a definition there of an inland port. The mandatory requirement of the topic, again, is to demonstrate the supply and production of a low energy fuel supply for the port, for ships and other port operations, as well as other vehicles operating in and out of the vicinity of the port. Proposals will then need to address at least 5 of these 7 areas. Demonstration with respect to greener logistics, energy efficient buildings, construction techniques, infrastructure and land use, efficient logistic operations and connections to the port hinterland, demonstration of the positive effects of digitalization, for example, connected and automated vehicles and cranes and intelligent port systems, and then new tools for port optimization, including passenger and freight flow. Just like the airport topic, assessment of the non-technical framework conditions for implementing these low emission solutions, and if required, new stakeholder governance arrangements. And finally, a delivery of a master plan for the green port of the future. And I recommend you look at the call text for what is required here in terms of scope, because it's quite detailed. So to the modalities of the call, both parts A and B. It's an innovation action, TRL 6 and above. Projects should be between 4 and 5 years. Sorry, wrong slide. Projects should be between 4 and 5 years. As mentioned earlier, each proposal requires 1 lighthouse or leader airport or port and up to 3 follower airports or ports. There's a total budget of 100 million for this topic, with a recommendation for proposals requesting from between 15 and 25 million euro. On that basis, we would expect to see 2 proposals per area funded. The application process will be single stage with a deadline of the 26th of January next year. I would recommend, since I kind of messed up with my slides a little bit there, that you go back and you have a good read of the core text for this area, and you'll find that on the participant portal. And there'll be details at the end of this these presentations in relation to how you can find the actual text for the call. I now hand over to Matthew Clark, who will talk to you about the Area 6 and Farm to Fork. Thank you.
Sorry, Matthew, we can't hear you.
Matthew, we can't hear you speak.
No, still no here. Still nothing, Matthew.
Let's move on to the next slide.
Hey there, if we move on to the next NCP, and then we can try and bring Matthew back afterwards.
Okay, hi everybody. Just on Area 7, on ecosystems and biodiversity. One topic here, quite a large topic as well, 16 to 25 million euro budget on restoring biodiversity and ecosystem service. So the focus of this area is on the upscaling and integration of solutions for the restoration of biodiversity and ecosystem services. What solutions are available today? They're neither upscaled nor integrated sufficiently with governance, investment or policy support landscapes. Next, please. And because they haven't integrated, they've not triggered transformational change. So actions under this topic should contribute significantly to the EU 2030 biodiversity strategy for damaged terrestrial, freshwater, coastal and marine ecosystems. So it's a variety of ecosystems here that can be looked at in terms of transformation. Next. So in terms of the scope of this particular topic, action should involve testing large-scale restoration initiatives both at land and sea. They should implement, in line with the EU biodiversity strategy, restoration actions that increase the resilience of ecosystems. Healthy ecosystems are natural carbon stocks and sinks, so they're extremely useful. They can remove carbon dioxide and contribute to disaster risk reduction. Proposals should also promote the scale-up of nature-based solutions, and nature-based solutions feature quite a lot in the Green Deal. So in particular, projects here should support and build on projects that have already been funded in Horizon 2020 and in, for example, the EU LIFE programme. They should demonstrate how restoration activities enable climate neutral, resilient, inclusive and transformative processes, really transformative, large impact projects here. And crucially, they should also create value for communities affected by the transformative change and strengthen social acceptance and resilience. So it's crucial to involve communities. Next slide, please. This slide just outlines some of the proposed activities. This is quite a large topic. I'd suggest you go to the call text. I haven't got time here, obviously, to present on a lot of the areas in the call text, but read through it. There's a lot of, proposed activities. Some of the ones here are non-exhaustive, and there are some that are envisaged. So, example, addressing barriers to the implementation of nature-based solutions, supporting the development of specific demand and supply chains. So one important activity would be to work with and involve communities in transition in order to support a just transition and deliver tangible benefits to vulnerable regions and communities affected. Another important activity here would be in terms of scalability plans. So it's crucial that you integrate the innovative solutions with governance and financing systems, scale them up and ensure that they can be replicated elsewhere and the solutions can be effective in other regions, or demonstrate what needs to be change with these solutions if they have to be replicated in other areas. Next slide, please. Next. Okay, moving on to area 8 of the Green Deal, and this contains two environmental health related topics with a focus on the problem of persistent and mobile chemicals, as well as the second call topic in particular on the problem of combined exposures to industrial chemicals and pharmaceuticals. Next. Okay, just as background to this challenge, the Green Deal includes a commitment to a zero pollution ambition for a toxic-free environment, and it specifically mentions the risks posed by very persistent chemicals. Examples of these substances are the PFAS, or polyfluoroalkyl substances, and these are a group of over 4,000 man-made chemicals which are widely used in consumer and industrial products, for example, firefighting foams, textiles, food contact materials and packaging. They're of increasing concern as they are persistent, toxic, and they're also they can bioaccumulate. So there are numerous examples of contamination of European sites, but water and soil in many European countries. In fact, in most European countries, and the overall cost from PFAS, and this is from a Nordic study, is estimated to be between 52 and 84 billion euro in Europe. And this is likely to be an underestimation, as it only includes a limited range of health effects. Next, please. The call topic aims at developing new or improved technologies demonstrating innovative solutions to protect health, the environment and natural resources from these chemicals. These could, for example, involve addressing the contamination of soil sediments, air, food and drinking water. So some examples of proposed activities under this topic include the development of innovative, cost-effective bioremediation technologies for soil and water, the development of new high-resolution analytical techniques to improve detection. So limits of detection here are pretty, typically parts per trillion. So improving on that. Biomonitoring and gathering toxicokinetic information here that is useful, obviously, to use. The development of best practices for the management of waste containing these substances is important also. One other area would be the development of predictive modeling in terms of the substances. Next, please. On topic 2, okay, there's growing concern, not just about the occurrence of pharmaceuticals in the environment, and the European Green Deal proposal on a new chemical strategy is actually dealing with this and aims at better protecting humans and the environment from these substances of concern. Humans, wildlife and domestic animals are often exposed to combinations of different chemicals, and this is a key, the combinations and the co-exposures. So these can have very negative effects, and in terms of water, food and feed, consumer products can contribute to this. And while the understanding of the risks of combination exposures and the management of unintentional mixtures has progressed, there are still significant knowledge gaps. There is also a need to manage these risks with an improved regulatory approach. Next, please. This is an applied research topic, so there's a need to demonstrate how new tools and approaches that are workable in a regulatory context can be applied to alleviate the effects of harmful co-exposures to these chemicals and pharmaceuticals. So activities within the scope of proposals could include new tools and analytical methods to detect and measure complex mixtures, the comparison of different regulatory approaches, modeling and statistical approaches to the health impacts of combination exposures, and studies on the safety margins for combination exposures, as well as predictive chronic exposure modeling, which could be applied, for example, to the design phase of chemicals and materials. Next, please. And the main impacts foreseen for proposals under this topic are an evidence-based prevention and mitigation of co-exposure to pharmaceuticals and industrial chemicals, better risk assessment and risk management approaches to reduce the most critical exposures, and to support new regulatory approaches, for example, mixture assessment factors. And I'll just hand over now to Area 9.
Okay. Hi, can everybody see me okay? Because I'm getting some messages to say that I should turn off my webcam. So assuming that you can. So good morning.
Perfectly, Maria.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so good morning, and first of all, thanks to everybody that's been involved in the organisation of this event. Having recently helped to organise an event similar to this for the ERC, I know the amount of challenges that it can pose in a virtual setting. So I'm going to lead off with the Area 9 section of the Green Deal. With the first section that I will introduce is to do with European research infrastructures, which has a total budget of 28 million. And then I'm going to hand over to Mark again, who will go in the second topic, developing end user products and services for all stakeholder citizens, supporting climate adaptation and mitigation, before Fiona Grant from the Marine Institute is going to close out the topic with talking about towards transparent and accessible seas and oceans, towards the digital ocean. Can you move on? Thanks, Bob. Okay, just to introduce myself, my name is Dr. Maria Nash. I'm from Science Foundation Ireland. I'm the NCP for ERC and newly the NCP for Research Infrastructures. Can you move on? Thanks. I'm just going to turn off my webcam because that message keeps coming up. Okay, just 2 seconds. Okay. So for research infrastructures, sorry, you can move on from that one again, Bob. Sorry, that's repeating sort of what was in the last slide. This subtopic is divided. This topic is divided into 3 subtopics, and the activities represent a total budget of 28 million. And for the first topic, which is supporting Europe leadership in clean energy storage and technologies, the activities cover transnational integration of and virtual access of key infrastructures and testing services. It will cover all TRL levels and complementary and interdisciplinary infrastructures for energy storage and innovation. It is expected that applications will take into account all related S3 projects and that all relevant major European initiatives in the area, such as the open innovation testbeds to exploit synergies. Can you move on, please, Bob? Thank you. So the second subtopic will cover enhancing European research infrastructures for greenhouse gases and observations around cities. The action will enhance greenhouse gases, the observation capacity of European RIs, especially activities related to the CO2 emissions from humans and around cities, and then also will cover transport infrastructures such as roads and etc. Proposals to cover the data of architecture and engineering plans for extending and upgrading existing European RIs, as well as plans to integrate new initiatives into existing RIs. It is emphasised within the call document that we should be engaging with S3s such as ICOS, Actress and IAGOS. This will be expected for the call, and the overall budget for this is 13 million. Can you please go to the next slide, Bob? Thanks. Then finally, the third subtopic is to enhance the observations for air quality and citizens' health in urban areas. The budget for this is a total of, the indicative budget is around 8 million. The aim is to enhance urban air quality monitoring networks and observation infrastructures in measuring air pollutants and particles. Proposals to cover strategies to engage all stakeholders, including citizens, to build up commitment at local and pan-European level and to promote long sustainability in the area. Engagement in training is emphasised within the call, and promoting dissemination and exchange of experience is emphasised as also as important. Coordination with initiatives such as Copernicus and the European Open Science Computing Network and global support initiatives such as the Paris Agreement are also emphasised as essential. It should also propose roadmaps for upscaling and replicating solutions for enhancing existing European infrastructures for air quality and monitoring networks. Okay, thank you. I'll hand you over to Mark for the second topic in Area 9.
Thanks, Maria. And the challenge here in topic 9.2 to be addressed is the need to deliver end user products and services that can help decision makers identify which modes of production, consumption and lifestyle are compatible with climate resilience and pathways achieving climate neutrality by 2050. So it's a topic that was touched on earlier by John in his presentation. So climate change solutions still fail to a large extent to incorporate social and behavioural factors. And this limits both their efficiency and their, and often their uptake. Therefore, actions are needed for the relevant information. I think that word is key: relevant information and practical solutions to reach end users. Next. So proposals under this topic should contribute to informing citizens and decision makers about the impacts of climate change in the decades to come and identify adaptation pathways towards climate neutrality. So proposals should cover some of the following aspects: building on existing services and frameworks. So there's a lot of information already there in platforms like Copernicus, Geo, ModNet in terms of marine, and the European Space Agency. So actions particularly here are, the downstream part of the value chain and engaging with end users should be looked at. There's a need to build knowledge on how the climate is changing, but at a scale meeting the user's needs, and that's important. So proposals need to exploit knowledge in a way that bridges the gap between the expert tools that are already being used by scientists and the needs of decision makers. So there's definitely a barrier there that needs to be addressed, as these are often not very compatible. A proposal should also demonstrate climate services in a near to operational environment with the provision of guidance services, and also measuring results through KPIs that are actually defined with the end user. Next, please. Actions under this topic should more specifically focus on one of the following aspects. So 2 areas, 1 of 2. So first one, converting the mitigation pathways to 2050 and beyond into clear information about how climate change impacts will evolve and how production, consumption, infrastructure and lifestyles need to change. Or secondly, delivering the next generation of climate services, and particularly providing actionable information to non-specialists to adapt to climate change through availing of tools, usable platforms and mobile applications. Next, please. So again, this is not exhaustive, it's just some. I'd suggest you read the call text on this. So some expected impacts for this topic are to enable citizens and decision makers to factor climate change and climate adaptation into their decisions, and to exploit effectively information from various platforms, the Copernicus Global Earth Observation System and other sources. So there's a lot of data there already. It just needs to be positioned or put in a usable format for decision makers and for potential users, and that will maximize the value of this data. So allow users to become active players in climate action by improving the accessibility and usefulness of high-level information. And finally, to support the growth of the European climate services sector. And I'll just transfer over to Fiona, who will present the next topic.
Thank you very much, Mark and Maria, for the introduction. My name is Fiona Grant from the Marine Institute, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about the topic on the transparent and accessible seas and oceans towards a digital twin of the ocean. So this particular topic is a co-creation between DG RTD, DG Mari and DG Connect. And there are 4 important contextual elements for the topic. So physical, environmental and socio-economical aspects are very, very important within it. So the specific challenge is a fit for purpose, sustained ocean observations, which are essential to understand, forecast ocean behaviour, protect marine socio-ecological systems and support the blue economy. And really it's looking to integrate key EU and national research infrastructures and include areas like EMODNet, Copernicus and the Blue Cloud. And the FAIR guiding principle is very relevant in terms of ocean observations because of the challenge of collecting data, but also the cost. So the concept of acquiring once and using many times is really critical here, and it's one of the underpinning drivers of this topic. It's very important to integrate your proposal with the Destination Earth, Destiny initiative, which is very high precision digital model of the Earth, AI together with supercloud and HPC capacities. And again, this including citizen science in the proposal is very important. Next slide, please, Bob. Yeah, thank you. So again, the expected impacts here, I'm not going to read down through them, they're within the call text, but key things to note are the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, but also what John Bell referred to earlier, the mission on healthy ocean, seas, coastal and inland waters. And I'd encourage you to open up the Starfish 2030 report that's been issued by the mission board and see how your proposal could link in with that. Next slide, please, Bob. So in terms of the scope, so what they're saying is much of the ocean observation data in Europe is still very fragmented and it's not flowing very easily, and they're very much looking for multidisciplinary case studies. So essentially this is a proposed simulator. While the scope is pretty open, it should demonstrate concrete use cases in local, regional or global sea basins. So again, they're not looking for disparate case studies. It needs to be much bigger part of a whole. It should build on existing research infrastructures and data that's currently available from all sources. Again, as I said, ideally looking for core models rather than disparate use cases so that they can transition easily to destination Earth. And one of the other areas or aspects is they're looking for selected projects to collaborate between themselves and also other relevant H2020 projects and with relevant projects from the ESA Ocean Science Cluster. So it's a €12 million budget, so they're expecting to fund one proposal, then innovation action. And just to really note in this particular area, international cooperation is encouraged. I would say it's probably, I would really strongly encourage international cooperation, particularly in terms of global ocean or regional sea basin case studies. So now I'm going to pass you to Area 10 and my colleague Deirdre Quinn. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona and my colleagues, and thank you to Enterprise Ireland for organising this event today. So I'm Deirdre Quinn. I'm the national contact point for Societal Challenge 6 and for the URC for SSH. I'm based at the Irish Research Council. So just to give Area 10 a little bit of context, as you've heard already this morning, the Green Deal call consists of 10 areas and 8 of them are vertical. And these 2 areas in Area 10 is a horizontal area, and its job is to engage people and to give perspective in relation to support and the transformations that are needed and required by the European Green Deal. So it's important to remember that the calls in Area 10 are very much have a social science and humanities focus, and we're really looking to get people from those areas involved as much as possible. And they're not standalone topics though, because they're horizontal, because their job is to bring in people who are most severely impacted by climate change. It means that the uptake in these calls is really important so that we can increase uptake in activities and education tools and so on, not just to increase it really, but to make sure it meets its maximum potential. For researchers in social sciences and humanities who are used to applying to Societal Challenge 6 or other challenges, indeed, it's important to remember that overall the Green Deal calls are part of H2020, but they do differ in that they are seeking to produce tangible results that are visible to citizens in a relatively short space of time, and that they're not exclusively focused on innovation and demonstration actions, but there is a really strong focus on impact. And impact, of course, in this respect in Area 10 means take up, engagement and involvement, and having the citizen at the core. This is really difficult when you are working with people from vulnerable groups, and they are really at the heart of Area 10. And of course, those groups who are most severely impacted and most immediately by climate change are also those that are most severely impacted by COVID. So making it a little bit more complex, but this makes it all the more important. Overall, the aim of Green Deal, one of the aims is to leave no one behind. And that's why Area 10, getting people involved, is really vital. So I'm going to speak about topic 1 and 2 in Area 10, and the first of which is European capacities for citizen deliberation and participation for the Green Deal. It's an RIA, and the topic aims to bring enhanced involvement of citizens in implementation of the deal itself. The key features are that it's participatory, co-creation, involves co-creation activities and events, engaged decision-making processes, and includes experts on gender inequality and climate. So it's bringing tools together, it's bringing people together, and it's acting on the innovation, but having engagement from those really hard to reach groups is vital. And consortia should choose a basket of qualitative and quantitative indicators, and projects with a budget of 3 to 5 million should be able to address the remit of this strand. So next slide, please, Bob. So the successful projects are expected to contribute to specific impacts, so to increase ownership and engagement, and to build on citizen engagement that is already in existence. So in this respect, your networks and collaborations will be really important, and building on those networks and bringing citizen groups into involvement. Also identifying solutions that can ensure the Green Deal achieves its aim, identifying them and ensuring participation. Again, reaching people and sustaining their engagement is vital. Enhanced involvement of citizens, not just in the European Green Deal, but also so that the impact will ensure involvement in the Horizon Europe missions. And the next expected impact, or what a successful project might look like, means that a proposal should focus on stronger trust in policy and science institutions among citizens. And there's a really interesting project that has been funded under Societal Challenge 6, headed up by PI Professor Maria Bagramian in UCD, and this looks at trust in experts. So, there might be some useful connections there that can be made, or knowledge to be gleaned. And there are also other similar projects around Europe that could be tapped into in relation to this strand. Buy-in and engagement, co-creation and co-implementation is really important for successful projects. It's to activate citizenship, get people engaged, and ensure that the pathways that you build can be sustained. In the longer term as well, successful projects in this should contribute to one or several of the sustainable development goals, and that's actually just becoming a feature of research in general, but is particularly important here in relation to the Green Deal. So next slide, please, Bob. We'll just move on to talk about topic 10.2, which is behavioural, social and cultural change for the Green Deal. Likewise, it's an RIA. Actions should address behavioural change at individual and collective level, should involve public and private organisations, and civil society is very important in this strand. And also, you should remember that in this strand, when thinking about the key impacts and key features of the call, and also what a successful project would look like, think about economic, societal and psychological impact. Overall key features of this call mean that change through collective and participatory processes, or sense of environmental citizens and climate justice. So the kind of actions we heard John Bell talk about at the very beginning of this morning in his talk about change coming from young people. That's really important that we act on that. And then it's also really important that we get those who are being most severely impacted involved, so that the actions we take reach them. The collective benefits and cost sharing arrangements of the Green Deal should be taken into account. We should also look at the broader structural measures to support affected groups, and as I mentioned, involve public and private organisations. Projects on this strand are required to be reflective, so monitoring and feedback is very important. And as mentioned, when you're working with people in vulnerable groups, this is particularly challenging. So this, this call is really important, and it will also require imagination to think about how can we sustain engagement over a long period of time, and proposals should address that challenge. Research and experimentation is important, but it should draw on transdisciplinary expertise, strong ethical and methodological standards, and again, engagement with your networks across Europe in being aware of these ethical and being able to meet ethical standards and methodological standards is really important. And proposals like the previous call should well, not necessarily, or they're not confined to being within a budget of 3 to 5 million, but that should be sufficient to meet the remit of this call. So moving on, Bob, to the next slide, please. Structurally successful projects should enhance research and innovation capacities, and transdisciplinary expertise, research and practice networks are really important here. They should focus on effective inclusive action and social behaviour. Behavioural change is key to this call and will be key to successful projects. So how change can be mapped, how it can be actioned, how trust and buy-in can be perpetuated so that that change can be carried on in the long term, but also how change can happen across Europe and not just locally. And projects should take urgency into account. So again, going to the most vulnerable first and addressing the most urgent action, most urgent problems first. Should the proposals that are successful here should be able to improve management of uncertainty derived from climate change. So this will require a bottom-up approach so that you get the knowledge of what is needed from people in those vulnerable groups and how it can be addressed. Proposals should also look at greater social resilience against climate change and build on things that are already in existence in relation to this. Look at how we mentioned the broader collective benefits. The strand should look at greater change in individual and collective levels. So at the group level, and how individuals would be brought along as part of those groups, which probably would be key to the long-term success of projects in this call. And overall as well, projects should look at how they can contribute to one or several of the Sustainable Development Goals. That's it for those two topics in Area 10. And just to flag another brokerage event that will be happening towards the end of the month. And it's being run by Net for Society. It has a particular focus on Area 10. Net for Society is a coordinating group for NCPs and Societal Challenge 6 across Europe. So not to compete, but the more the better, I guess, because there's a particular focus on Area 10. It may be of interest to people looking to apply in this area. Registration is open on the Net for Society website, and that'll be open until the 23rd. And if I remember correctly, the event is on the 25th. So with that, I'll hand back to Bob, and thank you very much, Enterprise Ireland.
Thanks, Deirdre. Topic 10.3 is on citizen engagement, and the transition towards sustainability must be just and inclusive. So the direct and active involvement of citizens is essential. We need to change citizen and consumer behaviour through education, awareness raising, citizen science, civic engagement and social innovation. It's only by directly involving citizens and communities that the personal behavioural and mindset change will be achieved. Strengthening the environmental awareness of younger generations is essential, as they have the potential to become ambassadors for climate action. Schools and universities are well positioned to engage with pupils, parents and the wider community on the changes needed for a successful transition to a green economy. And I've seen a couple of questions in the chat and the question section there on whether networks of schools would be eligible to apply here. And I think it's self-evident from this, they are necessary in this particular topic to engage with these kinds of networks and organizations, particularly schools, universities, training schemes. So citizen science is a powerful tool for climate action through civic engagement and contributes significantly to the Green Deal objectives. Next, please. Actions under this topic should address one of the following two subtopics. So the first subtopic targets the enabling of citizens to act on climate change and sustainable development through education. So proposals should develop and implement a European competence framework with a focus on lifelong learning for the development of knowledge and skills of citizens, in particular young people, again, so the focus on young people in relation to climate change and sustainable development. This framework should be tested and validated through demonstration activities in schools and universities. For example, the implementation of nature-based solutions in these, schools and universities, such as green walls, roof purification ponds. You could look at air quality sensors, green mobility solutions, sustainable food production and consumption solutions. So there's a whole range of activities here that could be incorporated into these settings. So the second subtopic targets the active involvement of citizens through citizen science and observation. So proposals should empower citizens and consumers with concrete tools to monitor their impacts on the environment, enabling them to positively change their behaviour and to reduce their personal carbon footprint. Next. Some expected impacts are the European Competence Framework that will serve as a reference tool for member states and other stakeholders. Specific educational programs, training and network activities. Enhanced engagement of the wider community, particularly using digital media to promote behavioural change, and also citizen science initiatives. So that's the end of 10.3. So I hope you all gained something today from the presentations, and thank you for your attention.
Mark, thank you very much for that. I'm just going to do a quick check if we're able to bring Matthew Clark back in again with his sound. Matthew, you might have a quick go there.
Hi, Gareth, can you hear me now?
We can, perfect. Bob, if you would go back to Matthew's slides and we'll go through them really quickly, and then we're going to go straight on to pitching, as I know we're running slightly behind time. So Matthew, off you go. The floor is yours.
Thanks very much for that, Gareth, and apologies for the earlier IT issue. My name is Matthew Clark. I work for the Department of Agriculture and the national contact point for Area 6 of the Green Deal call, which is the farm to fork area. Next slide, please, Bob. So a little bit of background. As we all know, thankfully, food in the EU, it's very safe, it's nutritious, it's very high quality, and thankfully it's very abundant. But unfortunately, in achieving these good aims, agriculture and food production is responsible for a significant percentage of greenhouse gas emissions in the EU. I've put in a figure there of about 25%. I suppose it would depend on how you calculate it. Also, food and agriculture wastes a lot of resources, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus, and is responsible for a loss of biodiversity. It pollutes our air, our water, and our soils by the misuse or incorrect use of pesticides and fertilizers, and is partly also responsible for some human health issues every year, such as antimicrobial resistance. On top of this, of all the nice food that we're producing in the EU, approximately 20% of it is wasted every year. So that's a very significant amount. And then on top of that, again, there are dietary issues in that 50% of people in the EU are overweight and 20% of these are obese. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of challenges there for us to deal with. In the farm to fork area, we have one topic open for proposals. It is testing and demonstrating systemic innovations in support of the farm to fork strategy. Now, within this, there are 6 subtopics. I don't have time to go into detail on all of them, but they are all innovation actions. The total budget for all of these, of this farm to fork area, is 74 million. The Commission are looking for proposals in the range of 6 to 12 million. So that will give maybe 6 to 12 projects to be funded here. And they will be in the TRL range of 5 to 7. So the Commission have said that they will fund at least one project for each of these subtopics, provided, of course, it meets the minimum requirements. So the 6 subtopics that are available for proposal are achieving climate neutral farms. So how do we do this? We do it by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and also increasing farm-based carbon sequestration and storage. So there's 2 elements to this topic here. It's not just about reducing emissions, it's also about increasing sequestration. Topic B is similar, but it's food business based. It's achieving climate neutral food businesses by mitigating climate change, reducing energy use and increasing energy efficiency in processing, distribution, conservation and preparation of food. So right throughout the whole food chain. Topic C is slightly different. It's more focused on environmental issues, and it's to do with reducing the dependence on pesticides and reducing the losses of nutrients from fertilizers towards zero pollution of water, soil and air, and ultimately fertilizer use. So for those of you that might have seen an earlier draft of the Green Deal call for this one, the topic there, the topic name has changed slightly, so just be aware of that and make sure, like all topics, you read the fine print. Number D is specific to the use of antimicrobials, and it's trying to reduce the dependence of antimicrobials in animal production and in aquaculture. Topic E is concerning reducing food losses and waste at every stage of the food chain, including consumption, while also avoiding unsustainable packaging. So it's nice to see there that there is also a twist in the tail there, that the unsustainable packaging is also a part of that. And topic F, the last subtopic here in Farm to Fork, is shifting to sustainable diets. This is to try and address the obesity rates. Shifting to sustainable diets from land, inland water and sea, which are accessible to all EU citizens, including the most deprived and vulnerable groups. Next slide there, Bob. So Irish researchers are very successful in this area. So if you can catch up with those, that would be great. Can I have the next slide, Bob, the last one? Some of the aims of the proposals are, yeah, thanks for that. So the Farm to Fork strategy was launched in May this year, so you can get a chance to look at that to see what its aims are. It's to promote a fair, healthy and environmentally friendly food system. It is to reduce greenhouse gases by 50% by 2050. This is the way it's written in the text. As we know, that John Bell said earlier, the aim is now 55%. The Parliament, I think, are pushing for 60%, so let's see where that one turns up. The other aims also have a deadline here. The next ones that I'm going to mention have a deadline of the year 2030. So the aim is to reduce pesticide usage by 50%, reduce nutrient losses by 50%, reduce fertilizer use by 20%, reduce the sales of antimicrobials by 50%, and half the per capita food lost by the year 2030 also. These are all very ambitious targets, but there's a lot of scope there for everyone to get involved. We also want to reverse the rise in overweight and obesity rates and bring our diets more in line with dietary recommendations. That's it for me, guys. I know we're tight for time, but if there are any of these areas here that pique your interest, this is the call for you. So please get involved. Thank you very much. Over to you, Garrett.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So colleagues, just to say, first of all, to NCP colleagues, thank you for going through that in so much detail. I know certain areas are of relevance to some people and not to others. So we tried to keep it at the right level insofar as we could. The slide that's up there shows you the links to the EEN, the links to our NCP networks, and the links to the portal. And please remember, there is a lot of information on the portal which can be of use to you. And also, if you're looking for collaborative partners, you know to contact and answer questions, you know to contact your NCPs, but also contact us directly. At a later stage today or tomorrow, an email will go out to you from the B2Match system, which will link you into the video of our conference this morning. And more specifically, it will also give you the presentations and all the contact details are there. We were going to break for a coffee or a green tea, but considering we have not managed great timing discipline this morning, we're going to plow on ahead because I'm very conscious that our presenters also have meetings this afternoon. And just so you're aware, the marketplace innovation and R&D opportunities have gone up by about 100 since the time we've been speaking here this morning. And there's over 2,400 people logging on to the B2Match to start their meetings. So again, let's collectively, using Twitter, please promote those innovation and research opportunities in the marketplace with the handle, as we asked earlier, #EU Green Deal. And what we're going to do now, and I'll finally ask again, can people go in and confirm meetings? They've increased by about 140 since we started talking, which means there's 1,400 people there looking for meetings who haven't got an answer yet. So please do go in and do that also. And new opportunities you may have seen this morning are also there for you to make linkages and have meetings across the brokerage system today and tomorrow. So please don't hesitate. That's why we're hosting the system, and that's what it's there for. So I'm going to ask colleagues now if we move on to slides in relation to our 16 pitches, which we're all looking forward to this morning. And Bob, if those slides go up now at your convenience. So what we're going to do with the pitches is we're going to try, insofar as possible, is to have far more discipline on timing than we did this morning, which I know is a total hypocrisy, but we're going to have to do our best. So if I could ask presenters to turn on their camera and their sound, obviously when they're presenting, and we are going to try and keep to a strict 5-minute limit with the slides that you've sent us. And obviously we'll have those circulated later as well, with your permission, to any individuals who are part of the conference at the brokerage event who may think they're interested in working with you, which is the objective of today's pitching session. So can I ask Paul Farris from University College Galway, please, to kick off with our first presentation? Do we have Paul Farris ready to go? University College Galway. I'm going to give it one more minute there, and then we can always try and come back to Paul if we have a chance. No, we might move on to, oh, you there?
Yes. Sorry, my computer had just crashed.
As you know, this morning, there's nothing we can do. It's just the world we live in now. So welcome, and I'll give the floor to you for your 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Dr. Paul Farras. I'm a lecturer in chemistry at the school at the National University of Ireland. As you may know, NUI Galway is a medium-sized university with about 20,000 students and staff, and has been placed in the top 1% in the world in the last ranking of the Times Higher Education. So I'm the director of the ChemLight group, and we have now about 16 members, including a number of PhD students and postdoctoral researchers. And our research is focused on coupling renewable energy sources with chemical reactions. And we do that by using either electrochemical or also direct light-driven processes. And we have a number of publications from the last few years on that. So apart from this, I'm also the coordinator of 3 European projects that are based on different programs. So I've been the coordinator of the SeaFuel project for the last 3 years almost now. SeaFuel is an Interreg Atlantic area which aims to demonstrate the production of green hydrogen in an island setting and its use to power a local fleet of vehicles. I'm also the coordinator of Solar2Chem, which is a new Marie Curie innovative training network that we started this year, and is basically to train the new generation of PhD students on the production of solar chemicals. And even more recently, I'm also coordinating the Flow Photochem project, which is an industry-led project with 14 partners, which aims to demonstrate at a pilot scale the production of a solar chemical as well. So apart from coordinating these 3 projects, we are also involved in 2 other European projects also on green hydrogen, which are the Huge project and the Green Highlands project based in Mallorca in Spain. Next slide, please. So our interest in the Green Deal topics are basically related to the topic 3.1, the closing the industrial carbon cycle. And we are basically interested because we are working already on these new technologies to integrate renewable energies with the production of green fuels and chemicals. And this is basically what we are doing already in all these different European projects that we are coordinating. So based also on the fact that from the SeaFuel project, we have seen that islands and isolated regions are ideal locations for testing new technologies. We believe that within this topic, island is an ideal location to have the demonstration of this proposal. And we have already identified an ecosystem with the whole value chain from emitters to producers to end users already in Ireland. So we have already started the discussion with some industry partners, also with some technology developers, but we are already trying to build up the consortium. And since this topic is quite significant in terms of budget, we believe that we really need to cover a few different areas. And that's why we are really looking for other partners to be able to meet all the criteria from this topic. So next slide, please. So the idea that we have on this proposal is that also like looking at the objectives of this call is the valorization of CO2 from highly emitting industries to the most developed sectors in Ireland. And these are basically the pharmaceutical, agriculture, and transport sectors. So we believe that in Ireland, one of the industries that would fit with these highly emitting industries is the salmon industry. So in Ireland, there is now the production of about 3.5 tons of salmon, which equals to the emission of 3.5 tons of CO2 to the atmosphere. So because in the other sectors that are basically targeted for the highly emitting industries in this call are basically, apart from salmon, the steel industry. As you may know, we don't have any steel industries in Ireland, but I think that with the salmon industry, we have already like enough CO2 to have a proper demonstration plan here. Also, an interesting selling point from the Irish perspective is that we can really demonstrate the integration, not so much for solar, but in particular for wind, to CO2 capture and conversion. And we can do that through either electrochemical or thermochemical conversion routes to achieve key chemical targets. So our approach will be that on the west coast of Ireland, there is a huge potential for onshore wind with already a number of almost 1 gigawatt of onshore wind conversion in Ireland. So the main problem that we have now is that even though the potential can be tripled or quadrupled in the next decade, the problem that we see is that there is not enough coupling with the grid infrastructure. So we believe that we can use some of these assets in terms of wind to use that to convert into chemicals that are relevant for the industry also in that location. So in a sense, what we are looking at is the conversion of CO2 into key chemicals that are relevant for the industry there. And we are looking at basically alcohols such as methanol or ethanol, and also the potential conversion into jet fuel that can be included then into the airports on the west coast, in particular Shannon Airport and Cork Airport. So NYG is looking at being in a supporting role, not as coordinator. And we have already established a number of partners in engineering, dairy, pharma, distilleries, and CO2 capture technologies. But we have still a couple of gaps, like technology developers, energy operators, the aviation end users, policy regulators. In particular, what we are really wanted to show is that we have national support. So national support from the departments of the Irish government, Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland would be very much important to make sure that Ireland can be a proper demonstration site for this topic. So, thank you. I think that my time is up. So thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And I hope everybody got the detail they needed there. And if not, they can contact you on the details below. Can I ask Sarah Caden from Amber and Trinity to join us now? Hello, Deirdre, good morning. Sorry, calling you Sarah for some reason.
Hi Gareth, good morning. Hi, I'll just kick off because I'll try and stick to time. So hi everyone, and thanks to Enterprise Ireland for the opportunity to showcase our research and connect with partners. My name is Deirdre Cadden, and I'm one of 2 EU funding managers in the Amber Science Foundation Ireland Research Centre. First, a bit about Amber. We are the Advanced Materials and Bioengineering Research Centre, a national centre of excellence in advanced materials established in 2013 through a Science Foundation Ireland Centre grant, which runs now until 2025. The centre is based in Trinity College Dublin, and we have more than 70 investigators across 8 institutions in Ireland. Our research programmes span the sectors of ICT, health and wellbeing, climate action, sustainability, and advanced and smart manufacturing. Amber researchers have won about 55 million in EU funding to date. We coordinate 12 projects and we're partner in 34. We also have 22 ERC grants to date. Our core expertise, you can see there, is in 2D materials modelling and theory, materials characterisation, synthesis and fabrication, bioengineering and medical devices, and public and stakeholder engagement. And there's a list of our facilities there. Next slide, please. So, sorry, this is quite a dense slide. We were asked to pick out a couple of topics that we might consider coordinating. And I should say here that these are tentative coordinations. It might turn out to be more appropriate to be a partner in these, but these we can put some thought into that as potential partners emerge. So the topics we've chosen here are based on previous submissions or discussions that we're having with industry partners. And the first one addresses Area 6, and that's the testing and demonstrating systemic innovations in support of the farm to fork strategy. So that would specifically focus on subtopic C, which is the one involving dependence on hazardous pesticides. And the concept here is to introduce disruptive efficiency gains in agricultural crop spraying with the target of 50% reduction in hazardous pesticide use before 2030 through nanobubble media and dynamic delivery modalities. And the current partners here with Amber are an Irish SME called Magro, legal name Agriculture and Magnetics. The other partner is Wageningen University in the Netherlands and IVIA in Spain. So the partner gaps that we've listed here they're not exhaustive, but they include spray modality specialists, progressive precision arable farming partners, plant pathogen specialists and microbiologists, innovation and business specialists, consumer groups and retailers, behavioural and social scientists, and environmental networks. So they're just some of the groups that we think should be involved in this consortium. And so the second topic we've identified is a lot more tentative, I think, but it's based on some recent project discussions we've had with multinational beverage company PepsiCo. And the topic here is Area 3, number 2, which is the demonstration of systemic solutions for the territorial deployment of the circular economy. And we have basically some ideas which revolve around concepts on alternatives to PET bottles, looking at research and technologies for recycling of PET, looking at bio-based alternatives to PET, such as bio-PET or PEF, microplastics, looking at the metrology of microplastics and the technology to stop microplastic formation, or improve methods of capturing degraded microplastics. So this might also have relevance in topic 8 as well. Looking at lightweight glass, Amber's Sustainable Materials Group also looks at lightweight glass, which could be an alternative to plastic packaging, strengthened glass to make it more lightweight, but avoiding additives that will cause problems in recycling. And recycling technologies that might deal with laminate packaging, such as crisp packets, looking at chemical or mechanical means of separating those different materials. So the current partners there are the Sustainable Materials Group in Amber and PepsiCo. And then we've identified a large group of possible partner gaps here. And this is really non-exhaustive, as this is such a multidisciplinary and multi-sectoral call. So you would obviously want regional authorities, waste management sectors, innovation specialists, standards body, life cycle analysis, experts involved, consumer, local community groups, packaging companies, and I think across all of the topics, behavioural and social scientists and environmental networks would be important. So if anyone in the audience feels they can contribute to a potential, a nascent consortium in either topic, please get in touch with me or my colleague, Claire McKenna. Our contact details are on a slide. So the next slide is the last one, and I'll just very quickly say these are the areas where we could be involved as a partner. Research areas on the left, the topic on the right, and Amber's expertise is in the middle. And just lastly, as we've seen, citizen engagement is so important. We have in Amber, we have an education and public engagement team that can work with us on the consortiums, as well as some good contacts in the Science Gallery. So we're looking forward to hearing from partners, and thanks very much for listening.
Deirdre, thank you very much for that and for your timely contribution. Can I ask Manuel Moreno from Eurovertis in Spain, please, to join us?
Yes.
There we go. Welcome.
I'm here. Hello. Hi to all. My name is Manuel Moreno. I am from Eurovertis Consultores from the region of Murcia in Spain, and I am here representing ALIA. ALIA is an agricultural transformation society located in the municipality of Lorca in the region of Murcia as well. The region of Murcia is located in the southeast of Spain. The company was established back in 1975 and it is currently comprised of over 300 members. ALIA is a company committed to continuous improvement, especially in sustainability issues. It implemented several years ago an integral system for the traceability management of the whole plant production. In addition, the company is certified with the 2 international standards regarding environment and quality issues. In addition, it is one of the first companies of this sector and our region in establishing a research and development department, together with a quality control and food safety laboratory. In addition, certified with the main international standard of the laboratory. The main goal of the company is the manufacturing of compound feed for a wide range of livestock, including cattle, sheep, pigs, and poultry. And every year, the company produces about 75,000 of compound feed. The company is now formed by about 47 employees in total. In addition, it is important to remark that ALIA has presence in most of the stages of the whole agri-food supply chain, especially in animal feed manufacturing. As we said, this is the main activity of ALIA, but not only in there, but the company is also involved in the farm stage, the livestock commercialization, and also the slaughterhouse stage. The company has great experience in different EU programs. For example, it is currently involved in one Horizon 2020 project, Shift for Life project, and in an Interreg Med project. In addition, it has worked and it has participated in other EU programs as LIFE programs. Next slide, please. Okay, we are presenting ALIA in here with the role of a coordinator in the topic, which is about the testing and demonstrating systemic innovation in support of the farm to fork strategy. In concrete, it is focused on subtopic D, which is about reducing the dependence on the use of antimicrobials in animal production and in aquaculture, which is an innovation action, and you may know. Well, the main impact we have for our project is to decrease the dependency on antimicrobials in animal production in order to provide sufficient, safe, nutritious, and healthy and affordable food for everyone, always with the aim of not leaving anyone behind, and in addition to improve the overall sustainability of food system as well as its resilience. This idea has been previously discussed and already discussed with our national contact point in the context of not European funding, but national funding. Next slide, please. Okay, regarding our project idea, and which is the main objective we have with this proposal we aim to present, the main objective of our project is to develop feed with the incorporation of innovative ingredients with microbial activity against digestive pathogen in pigs. This is the main objective, and we want to do it with the aim of substituting, or at least to drastically reduce the use of antibiotics in the animal production systems. These ingredients, we think we have the aim to include in these new nutritional formulas, will include probiotics or prebiotics, which will for sure stimulate the immune system of the animals, as well as plant extracts, with the aim of including also antimicrobial properties as well as palatability properties. Furthermore, we want to decrease the absorption of unwanted compounds such as mycotoxins. As I said, Alia is presenting this idea as coordinator. We have, in addition, talk with the University of Murcia, which will be part of the consortium, which is actually really interested also in this proposal. But we also have different gaps as a company for manufacturing the natural extracts, the bioactive compounds, and the probiotics, which will be included in the new nutritional formula, and also companies for the production of materials for the reduction of the absorption of mycotoxins. In addition, as a transversal area, we need as well consumers association or NGOs for the co-creation activities and the engagement of the end users. That's all from my side. If you want more information about this, you can contact us. Thank you.
You're very good. Thank you. Can I ask Alexis from École Polytechnique Brussels to join us, please? Hello, Alexis.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Dr. Alexis Sandichuti. I'm senior researcher at Kalinka Labs of Brussels School of Engineering, which belongs to the University of Brussels in Belgium. So Kalinka Labs is working on different topics of planning, modeling, and simulation of logistics and transportation systems. And more particularly, its research focuses on three main areas today. It's first of all, it's the cross-functional integration of logistics and transport operations. Second, it's sustainability and performance modeling of transport and logistics systems. And as a university lab, we are involved in this knowledge dissemination and capacity building. Kalinka Labs has strong experience in European project from the FP6 to the last H2020, as well as an Interreg project. You can see some of examples here in the slide. So during in this project, Kalinka Labs was in charge of different research activities, and among them, for instance, designing and selection of climate smart transport and logistics solutions, performance modeling and evaluation of the selected solutions, assessment and monitoring strategies of sustainable improvements of achieved by the project, and of course knowledge dissemination and capacity building. So based on the experience, our experience and its our own research, Kalinka Labs developed a large range of evaluation tools based on multi-criteria and multi-actor approach. And these can be help in benchmarking various transport and logistics strategies on the basis of wide range of KPIs, including greenhouse gas emissions. Next, please. Yes, so as you can see, we are interested by several areas in this Green Deal call. Area 5, sustainable and small mobility, more particularly in tackling poor challenges. Area 6, farm to fork, we are working on, we conducted several research in local food systems, how to provide in a better way local food to the consumers, as well as the short food supply chain management. In area 3, we are working on the implementation of alternative fuel, such as hydrogen in green vehicles. And we're also interested to collaborate in the project in area 9 and 11. So in a project, we can take different roles as a partner. For instance, as you can see, modeling and simulation of any supply chains. We can be involved in impact analysis of changes in supply chains, selection of climate smart transport logistics solutions, performance modeling of those solutions, multi-criteria and multi-actor decision-making process, assessment and monitoring strategy of the sustainable improvement of the project, and for sure we can help and involve in knowledge dissemination and capacity building. We can also provide a very strong support to the coordinator at a very early stage of the proposal. Next, please. Yes, you can see my contact. Feel free to contact me for any questions for further discussion. Thank you.
Alexis, thank you for that, and thank you for the timing. Much obliged. Can I call on Owen Conlon from Trinity College now, please?
Thank you, Gareth.
Just bringing up your slides now.
Thank you.
Bit of pragmatism.
So thank you. Mick, go to the previous slide, please. Thanks. So my name is Owen Conlon. I'm part of Trinity College. I'm in the School of Computer Science and Statistics, but I'm actually talking about an organization in Trinity that's much larger. It's called E3, and this is the Engineering, Environment and Emerging Technologies Institute, which Trinity has recently established. This institute has significant capital backing within Trinity. It's leading to the building of 2 new buildings, ostensibly one focused on teaching and a new building around with specific research initiatives embedded in it. I think both of these buildings would be very interesting from a partnering perspective, given that they are smart buildings, and I think a lot of very interesting research there. If you're not aware, Trinity College is one of the top-ranked universities in Ireland. It has brought in the most research funding of any Irish university in FP7 and H2020, and I'm representing over 200 academics who are part of this E3 initiative, because it's bringing together 3 schools: engineering, natural science and computer science, and to tackle, I think, what are some of the most significant challenges that are presented in the world today, and looking at ostensibly at sustainability. So can you move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So it was very hard to identify a single call. I mean, when you're representing 200 different people with a broad range of interests, the reality here is that we could coordinate and engage in all of the areas presented this morning. We have expertise in smart sustainable cities, in smart buildings, in environmental impact and sustainability. We have engineering expertise in looking at innovative solutions for irrigation, for example. And we have a large expertise area in environment and environmental impact. So there's really quite a range of expertise, but it goes beyond just the 3 schools mentioned. we have very deep integration in Trinity with our social science and humanities colleagues. And that's one of the benefits of a truly integrated multidisciplinary university. And E3 is inherently multidisciplinary. And if you get a chance, I recommend searching for TCD and E3, and you'll find lots of details on our website to discuss the challenges that are being addressed by this research initiative. So next slide, please. So the main objective here is for me just to let you know that E3 is open for business. Trinity is a very experienced research partner. There's a lot of contacts on this slide, but I think the best contact is probably towards the bottom there is Patrick Lansley. So you can see his email address there. Representing 200 people is really hard, but Patrick has really good visibility of all of the various different bits of research. So if there's something that you're interested in that you think Trinity College, is particularly this initiative around E3, can help with, Patrick is somebody who's excellent for directing there. If you're coming more from the social science and humanities perspective and you're looking for partnerships and in understanding some of the complex human interactions in these different environments, then Nina Shield, who's the bottom contact there, is probably worthwhile. My colleague Sinead Lucy has arranged a number of one-on-ones with different people. So thank you for engaging with E3. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Owen. Appreciate that. Can I ask Fernando Morales from BIM 6D Consulting to join us? Fernando, any responsiveness there? We'll give it one more minute. Okay, Bob, then I might ask you to move on to the next presenter, Leo Strawbridge from Derry Strabane Council from Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Thanks, Leo.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. Okay, thank you, Gareth. I'll be as quick as I can, so I can try and catch up. And thanks, Enterprise Ireland, for the opportunity today. So, my name is Leo Strawbridge. I work for Derry City and Strabane District Council, a council in the northwest of Ireland, and I represent a local authority partnership, both Derry and Strabane and Donegal County Councils. We're in the northwest region of Ireland, which is between the UK and Ireland along the border. We have a population of around 330,000, and we've jointly developed a Northwest Regional Strategy with an ambition to decarbonise by 2045. We currently work on a number of EU programmes, one being Stardust, which is the Integrated Urban Model for Smart Cities, which is the Horizon 2020 project, and then the other ones below are a number of Interreg NPA projects, which we currently work on. Next slide, please. Okay, so our idea is to looking at either looking for a coordinator or a main partner. I want to be a partner in a consortium, so the area for energy and resource energy buildings. So over 90% of our buildings are currently, our emissions come from the domestic and commercial buildings as well as transport. The region is transitioning from a reliance on fossil fuels, and we're looking to utilize the plentiful resource of mainly wind, renewable resources, mainly wind, which we have in our region. We have consulted with our stakeholders through the regional energy strategy, and we're looking to form a consortium for a suitable project. We've also discussed with our local NPC project, NPC contact, and their national NPC contract, and have their support. Next slide, please. So our idea is to.
Leo, I might just ask you for your last slide, if you want to increase your volume, your voice a little bit, just it's not coming through very well on the system.
Sorry. Is that okay now?
Much better.
Okay, it's just a little bit far away from the microphone, but that's okay. I'm closer now. So, okay, so our idea is to motivate customers, consumers, citizens, the energy community, or the community to get involved in the energy efficiency aspects of the Northwest region regional energy strategy and to provide support, advice and skills development across the whole energy system, and particularly energy efficiency in buildings. Our current partners are obviously Derry City and Strabane Council, who I represent, and then the Gall County Council, which is crossing border in the Irish Republic. We have worked with a number of our stakeholders in the development of the regional energy strategy, and we build a suitable consortium around the above areas. So I'm the contact person for the project. I know my email address isn't there, and I'm the energy manager for Derry City and Strabane Council. And my email address is leo.strawbridge@derrystrabane.com. Thanks for the opportunity, Gareth. Let's be finished.
And if anybody had a problem hearing Leo, obviously his contact details are there, and you'll be able to get in contact with him. Can I ask Ollie Hines from Hub Controls to join us, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Ollie.
I'm Fernando Morales, and you didn't give me the access before. I don't know why.
If there's a problem, well, then I'll tell you what, if Ollie hasn't joined us, why don't we...
I'm trying to join, and it's not possible. If please, okay.
Yes, no, that's fine. We'll go back to your slides now. Bob, if you could go back to Fernando's slides.
Okay, thank you. I think I was linked in a wrong way. So right now I have, okay, I should start. Ready?
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm Fernando Morales. I'm Director of BXSD Consulting and Performance from Barcelona. Our company is specialized in digitalization services and products for ACO industry, architectural engineering, construction and operations industry for buildings and infrastructures. We come with multiple certifications, being management, Autodesk Forge technologies, working on the cloud, digital twin consortium, building smart organizations, among others. We have great experience in all kinds of projects for building and infrastructures. We have collaborated in projects like skyscrapers, hospitals, and other kind of buildings. And we manage the digitalization for all project life cycle, from design phase to construction and operation stages. Also, we are specialized in software development. This is why we are here. We are specialized in cloud computing and data technologies. This is why we have created Power BIM project. You have here the links if you want more information. Power BIM is we are presenting to Green Deal. It's a digital twin platform to improve the building performance in multiple aspects. The project has been recognized and awarded for several innovation organizations during the last 2 years. Power BIM is an ecosystem for multiple digital twins, the relationships between them, and providing a way to create a smart operational processes to improve the way we use the assets, the buildings and infrastructures, or the way we live in the cities. Next slide, please. The main goal for us is to create a consortium. Our role is coordinator. We are looking for companies for different strategic scopes to achieve this Power BIM product scalable to the great market and to meet the Green Deal requirements. So this means to construct smarter buildings, carbon zero, carbon neutral energy buildings, and better cities to live. And to do that, we need to create a consortium structured by main roles. From our project Power BIM, we will get to improve and to scale the solution with technologies, researching new challenges, and developing pilot projects. Next, please. So just to summarize, our main objective is to create this consortium. We are acting as coordinator and assisting the construction to achieve these zero energy buildings, developing digital twin technology. We have a very good basis. We are advanced with this kind of technologies, and we count with a lot of use cases, but we need more. And just to create a powerful consortium with different kind of companies. We have not experienced in these H2020 projects before, but okay, this is our idea, is to count with expertise companies in this area, just to create the best consortium to create this, to work in this technology. And some kind of partners we are looking for are IoT hardware developers, automotive hardware developers, software developers, or research centers, and also professionals. And okay, we are open to proposals from your side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for sticking to time. We're going to try again there and see if we can get Ollie Hines from Hub Controls. Ollie, if you just want to unmute, you'll be able to present. You're unmuted, Ollie, so we should be able to hear you. So you might just check if your own mic is working, as we're able to see that you're unmuted and are able to contribute. Okay, in the interest of time, I think we're going to have to move on. We'll try and come back to you, Ollie, towards the end. Bob, can I ask you to move to Paul McCormick's slides from Belfast Metropolitan College? And Paul, you might join us if you're able to hear us there.
Garrett, can you hear me? Yes.
I can perfectly. Thank you, Paul. Floor is yours.
We were there at the last slide. Can we pull it back? That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long morning, but a very productive morning. And thanks to all the organisers, both in Invest NI and Enterprise Ireland, for coordinating this day and giving us a European-wide shop window for promoting our goods in these COVID-reduced times. And their digital footprint is now more important than ever. The main reason we're here today is to link in with the rest of Europe, and I echo what the words earlier on this morning from John and Vicky. It's about collaboration. It's about linking together where we can reach beyond the shores of the island and ensure that the knowledge and the knowledge base that we have here is broadcast across Europe and globally. We wouldn't be here today without the support of Invest NI and Enterprise Ireland, especially Sam Knox and Claire Griffin in Invest NI and Philip Cheesley in Enterprise Ireland. In Belfast Met, we've won a number of European projects, both in Horizon 2020, Framework 7, and also in other Interreg and other funded projects. And it's all based on our coordination role and harnessing that energy that we talked about, and how we see hydrogen as the catalyst to delivering the energy transition. How do we optimise that journey? How do we make sure Ireland, both north and south, stay ahead of that curve and remain as energy renewables, as hydrogen renewables experts, and how we have linked in, not just in our own project work, but with other academics and other industry in sea fuel and huge, to make sure that we're the catalyst for that growth beyond that. Next slide, please. Hello, next slide, please. What we're looking at is the different areas in Area 2, the 2.1, the 2.2, the electrolyzer, and also possibly 2.3 in Green Africa. How we're going to use the lessons we have learned in our GenCom. How do we get to green hydrogen and also smart hydrogen? How we can use our hydrogen optimization support tool to utilise, constrain and curtail the energy both onshore and offshore at zero fuel cost to create hydrogen. We want to work with other partners to incorporate the large-scale electrolyzers with offshore wind. We want to address the grid saturation modules, showing where generators cannot access or are limited to grid connection. Using our host, we can demonstrate how to avoid the need for expensive grid build and use other energy vectors and other energy mobility, such as the gas networks. We want to develop large-scale models for hydrogen fuel cell heavy vehicles, buses, trains and ships. How we in GenCom have developed that hybrid model where it's different scales, different sizes for different uses to optimize the use of hydrogen. How we use our hydrogen optimization support tool to make decisions on electric vehicles versus fuel cell vehicles. We're going to have a hybrid model as we move forward. It's not going to be one size fits all. And how do we arrive at that? and then also then gas grid injection, where the feed-in points for gas grid across Europe are the best to deliver the most value. How can we work with other partners in these three different areas? 2.1, the innovative land-based and offshore, 2.2, the 100 megawatt electrolyzer, and 2.3, the in Green Africa. How we can validate hydrogen production technologies. How do we develop the hydrogenation of waste plastics? Use waste heat to include district heating schemes and the use of oxygen in the offtake for the waste treatments. Importantly then, using our tools and our mapping and our developing, how do we validate the P2X or the P2 Euros? How do we maximize the green hydrogen and the smart hydrogen to make that step? How can we help partners navigate not just the OPEX but the CAPEX costs of electrolyzers? How can we scale up technology and then work with partners to deliver that hydrogen refueling infrastructure? And then the infrastructure as we develop and move beyond. How do we get to there and work with the partners? And we've done that within GenCom, we've done that within Hazel, which is the hydrogen-enabled zero-emission supply chains, to actualize, validate, develop, and map. And those coordinations with ourselves, with our partners, Dr. Rory Monaghan in DC, in NUIG, and Dr. James Carton in DCU, and our partners in Belfast Met, have formed those links. We have reached out then, we've formed the Hydrogen Triple Alliance with Sea Fuel and Huge to develop that and to broadcast to Europe the energy optimization potential we have in Ireland and to move forward. Next slide, please. So as a support partner within Belfast Met and the GenCom Sea Fuel and Huge team, we can bookend a project, work with the larger technical partners that are going to provide the electrolyzers and the offshore and the onshore. How do we do the smart front end to explore stakeholders' perceptions? How do we identify the key factors and the public user interface and acceptance? How do we then work to make sure that we establish those public participation strategies right from day one, from the start, and then how do we moderate those decision processes? As the development and the deployment and expertise comes in at the back end of the project, using our expertise, we can optimize value. We can deliver long-term effects. We can support that informed decision making, and we create those optimal supply opportunities for all of the partners. We've done that, we've demonstrated that within GenCo, within Hazel, within Smart Hydrogen, and we can continue to do that by bookending that project, and to reiterate, exactly as John and Vicky said, to collaborate with others. Our work with GenCom has ensured that Ireland, both north and south, is at the vanguard of the hydrogen evolution. We're ahead of that energy curve. We want to maintain that position by working with partners onshore, offshore, working with partners to the new P2X opportunities, be that gas grid injection, be that the P2 question mark still to be developed, by working with DCU, NUIG and other partners. How we then find and optimize, and at the end, how do we valorize the benefits of that hydrogen in the Green Deal? How do we help then Europe make that step across from the COVID recovery to that green recovery, and all of the marks along the way, all of the stage gates along the way, and ensure that it's not just a just transition, it's a green transition, but that low carbon sector is also brought forward and all of the skills are brought there. So our expertise is in coordinating the projects, in managing the expertise, but coordinating all of the stakeholders and working with the wider stakeholders, as I said, with all of the NCPs, Enterprise Ireland, Investment Ireland, to make sure we harness that energy, not just for our benefit, for the collaborative benefit, and to bring that forward for the Green Deal. My contact details there, and we welcome input from anybody. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much, Paul. Appreciate that. Rajiv from Hemraj Consulting, can I ask you to join us, please? Paul, I might ask you to turn off your camera there.
Nearly forgot, and go on mute.
No problem. Rajiv, just a last call for Rajiv. Okay, we'll move on to our next speaker. So if we could go to Leila de Sola from the Port Authority in Spain. Leila, are you able to hear me there?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
So my name is Leila de Sola. I'm representing the Port Authority of Cartagena, which is in the southeast of Spain. They are a public body and they are in charge of the provision of general services required for the port functioning. Just a little bit of figures of the Port Authority. They are the first port in Spain in bulk traffic. They are also the first port in importing goods. They receive one of each 10 tons that are imported in Spain. And they are in the top 25 of the ports of Europe and the fourth of Spain, and the first one in profitability. Their operation involves 12,000 employments, which is 2% of the regional employment in the region of Murcia, and they are involved in several innovative projects like bunkering of liquid natural gas directly from the plant to the ships. They are also involved in the development of the logistic activity area in the port of Cartagena, and they have experience in several European projects in Horizon 2020, MED, LIFE, TEF, and TNT programs. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here they want to propose a project in the area 5 of Green Deal of smart and sustainable mobility, and specifically in the green ports topic. They are now developing their digital master plan and their energy and efficiency master plans, and they want to combine them in order to become a green port able to be representative in the Mediterranean area. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, they want to develop this project and are now defining the idea with the University of Cartagena, with the Polytechnic University in Cartagena, and are now lacking several profiles like fellow ports and industrial partners, which could support the digitalization and consultancy roles for the emissions monitoring and energy efficiency actions. If you want to contact them, please direct to the email address shown in the slide to the head of innovation, which is Mrs. Paloma Escudero. And this is all for me.
Thank you very much. That's very good of you, and thank you for staying to the time. Could I ask Barcelo from Everus in Belgium to join us, please? Welcome. How are you? Now, I can't hear you there. I think you're mute. Can you hear me now? Can we hear you now? No, I'm not getting any sound. No. Just let me see if I can. No, there doesn't seem to be any sound coming through. Okay, Patricia, what we might do is go back to another colleague and see if we can resolve the sound issue in the interim. But you might just check if there's an issue with your computer. Is that okay? So Bob, I'm going to ask you, we've been able to reorganize for Ollie to come back in from Ollie Hines from the Hub Controls. So you might go to his slides, and Ollie, if you're able to join us, hopefully now this is going to work.
Can you hear me?
Welcome, Ollie. How are you? If you want to give us your camera there.
I'm not sure the video was working.
Okay, well you go ahead there, and Patricia, we'll come back to you again to see if we can try and sort out the sound in the interim.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
Do you want to go ahead without the video?
Whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, without the video is fine for me. I think anyone who's having trouble, for whatever it's worth, there are permission preferences on your computers with GoToWebinar that don't necessarily hook up with Microsoft or with Linux, and that's what the issue was. Anyway, hello everybody. My name is Ollie Hines. I'm the founder and CEO of Hub Controls. I'm going to go off script a little bit just to give you an idea of what we do. We solve big problems in our company. We looked at the reduction of carbon in homes and realized very quickly that reducing carbon in people's homes is a bit like trying to get householders to recycle. It's very difficult. Although 27% of the total energy consumption used in the world is used in homes, and 64.4% of that energy consumption is used on space heating and cooling. Experts agree that 93% of that energy is wasted when compared to a carbon neutral home. But many have tried to change consumer behavior and failed. So how do we solve this? So what we thought was, if the consumer doesn't care or is too confused to make the changes required, what if we did it for them automatically with no need for any behavior change? So what we do is we focus on putting a device in someone's home that automatically reduces energy behavior in the home with no need for the consumers to be involved. How do we get consumers buy-in? We've wrapped this technology in a multi-award winning smart thermostat, a smart thermostat that most people want in their homes anyway. And our signups are over 100 times faster than the next best measures available. There are also some future benefits. Data, for example. Our device will measure the household's status every 160 seconds of every day of the year. So we can tell exactly how efficient or inefficient a home is before or after something else is done. But don't take our word for it, because I'm sure all of my colleagues say the same thing. We have completed the largest study in Ireland to date on 800 homes over 3 years, using only network meter readings, none of our own data. We were directed and verified by Ulster University. We were assessed by the Behaviour Insights team in the UK and by the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, and ultimately were accredited by the Sustainable Energy Authority in Ireland. New York State has allocated $1 million to do exactly the same thing as we've done in Ireland, in New York, and the results are in. If an average home has one of these devices installed, it will save an average of 35.86% on all heating energy, regardless of the fuel type. Over 3/4 of a ton per year in gas homes, and over a ton of carbon per year in oil homes. And the consumers love it. We have an NPS score of 81. And this is ready to go right now. So what are we asking from you? We want to work with you to bring these reductions across Europe. We want to save a ton of carbon per home in every home in Europe. And this can be rolled out now and quickly. This can be part of a standalone carbon reduction project, or part of an existing project, or even used as a measurement device for the efficacy of an existing project. We're Hub Controls. We are a multi-international award-winning company. We're internationally backed, Enterprise Ireland backed. We're an Irish tech company based in the Silicon Valley of Dublin, operating in the Irish, UK, and New York state markets. 22 highly qualified and experienced engineers and professionals, and over 60 billion data points to date. Thank you for listening. This is Hub Controls.
Thank you very much, Ollie, and sorry about the confusion there. So it was great you got to give your pitch. Can I ask Mary Lee Rhodes of Trinity College to join us, please?
Can you hear me?
I can, and you can join us by camera as well if you'd like.
All right, I will see if I can get that to share.
Gareth, can you hear me now?
Working?
Nice to have you with us. Great.
Good to be here. Thanks, Gareth.
The floor is yours.
Getting there. That's it. Yep, that's perfect. So I don't know if there's one before that on who we are, Bob. No. Okay. So my name is Mary Lee Rhodes, and I'm the well, no, that's not it. Just go to the next one.
Yeah, there's a slight delay on it. I think that's the issue. There you go.
That's good. Yeah. So my name is Mary Lee Rhodes. I'm the co-director of the Center for Social Innovation in Trinity College. You've heard from many of my colleagues today, so it's a very active system of innovation in Trinity. We are located in the business school, but we work with many of the other schools. So we worked with the School of Engineering on projects, as well as the School of Natural Science on relevant projects. So we have an actual proposal. It's in flight. Our national contact point is supporting us in putting together the consortium. The proposal is for the call on climate resilient innovation packages for EU regions. And it's called Adaptation, Transformation through Systemic Innovation. Actually, that's ATSI. We had a little typo there. And we have three major objectives. The first is to establish the ability to manage cross-cutting regional environmental, social, and economic objectives. So we want to work with regions who have the objective of transforming their societies economically, environmentally, and socially. The second one is to create conditions so that initiatives, community, business, nonprofits, nature-based solutions, so that those initiatives that support the objectives can be resourced, whether it's impact investing, venture philanthropy, it might be around generating volunteers or GoFundMe, whatever. And we would build a system to enable that. And then lastly, each of the regions will have their own ecosystem support, and the regions themselves will share information and will use sort of best-in-class both innovations as well as the systemic conditions required to scale these up. Next slide, please. So I'm going to just go right into the next slide because I know we only have 5 minutes. So if you just go into the next slide, we'll talk about a regional, these are in a different order. Okay, do you have a next slide for me, Bob? No, just go back then. And just go back one more. So the objective, the innovation system is in the diagram there. how it works in each region is we wrap around a set of innovations or a set of initiatives in the region, which are in the green, with 5 different elements. One is a systemic innovation lab called Wicked Labs, which helps manage, identify, and plug gaps around initiatives. A second one is a skills for the 21st century, so helping individuals skill up for the new businesses and new activities that are required. A third one is an innovation accelerator to enable businesses to go from, say, TRL 4 to TRL 7. Impact investment is the kinds of instruments needed for social finance, impact finance, etc. And then finally, at the end on the blue, you see a regional risk and impact mapping, essentially a dashboard to help the regional authorities understand what's going on in their region and if they are achieving their outcomes. We worked for about 8 months with the Midlands, the Irish Midlands, to set up this design to help them, or to propose to help them with their transformation away from using the peat bogs for energy and into a new form of employment and energy generation. And we would use this kind of approach across Europe. So if you will go to the next slide. So what we're looking for is we're looking for other regions to sign up, that they have objectives around transformation, climate change, but also economic and social transformation, that they're committed to it, they have things in flight, and they want help with actually managing systemic transformation using this model. We're also looking for competence experts in social enterprises, climate adaptation. The presentation that just came before us, that would be ideal types of partners to say, how can you deploy your innovations in these regions who are committed to actually making change and accelerate the take-up of those. So we are in that process. We have 2 regions so far. We're looking to get to 6, and we have 4 partners, and frankly, we'll take as many partners who can contribute to the transformation in the target regions. And that's it. If you're interested, you can contact me there. You can see my email. And I also have a couple of meetings spaces as well in the brokerage. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you very much for joining us and for your timely introduction there. And best of luck with the brokerage. So what we're going to do, I'm going to move on now to our colleague from CEIT in Spain, Inigo, if you're available there and if you're ready.
Yes, I am. Let me see.
The floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Garrett. So I will go through the 3 slides that I have sent for this opportunity that you gave us. I'm here. I'm one of the representatives of CEIT, of CEIT in Spain, which is a research center which is situated in the north of Spain in San Sebastian. We are linked with the University of Navarra, and we are a mid-sized R&D research center which is composed of several areas of knowledge. And so I'm here as part of the ICT department, and mostly I'm the head of the electronic system and communication group. So this time I'm here more in the position to help for the collaboration in things related with position, proof of location, integrity, security, and also low power consumption and communication capabilities. So I have put there some lines, but in parallel there are other colleagues which are also interested in some of the other ideas for this Green Deal. And Fate, in this case, you can see that we have proved our commitment for the European research with several projects in FP7, LIFE, Eco Innovation, and so if you can go to the next slide, please. And specifically, I'm here to talk about one of them. I know that other colleagues are also willing to participate in other lines, as I previously told, but I am here to talk about the first one, the one on preventing and fighting the wildfires. And so the big one, sorry. And so this time we would like to offer, or what we would like to discuss with other colleagues, and I have some meetings after this pitching session, is what we have already in progress or work ongoing with the IOSAT project, which is an H2020 project that is finishing at the end of the year, if the coronavirus allows us to do the final testing, and which is useful to help in the, as it is said there, helping the monitoring and increasing of the safety of the first responders involved in the intervention of these big wildfires. So in this case, we think that we are capable of helping with what we have, what we have already done these years, and what we have learned from this process, and what we can bring into this very specific preventing and fighting wildfires idea with detection and response. Of course, during the intervention, we can be helping the brigades that are deployed in the event with something that I will show you in the next slide, but also, which is not so clear when you see the system, in the restoration and adaptation, because it is very useful, and what we have been talking with the end users is that it is very useful to have some data recorded of what have happened, and then we can try to reproduce it and to learn from these lessons. And so if you can go to the next slide, I can show you what is part of this system. So the main goal here, for the case that was presented in IOSAT, the objective is the increase of the safety for the first responder. This is the main objective. No other objective is higher than this one. And so in this case, we had 3 test cases, or 3 end users interested in things like indoor positioning, like parking lots, or like industrial buildings, and also we are having the outdoor position. So, and what we have done up to now is the validation of the outdoor one, so the one which is related to the firefight for the wildfires fire. And so we are having a positioning system with our own system, which has its own communication mesh. And this is useful because it is autonomous from what every firefighter brigade could have, and this is linked with some applications that the brigade leader could have. This is something like it is shown on the right side, where every brigade leader can have a look of where the people are, and monitor the main status of the people and the main status of the system that are on these people. And there's a link between this deployed application and the application that is in the incident command post, which is actually the place where the decisions are taken. So we have some partners already involved in this project, and most of them would be interested in participating in this idea. We have also some firefighters and some end users, I would say. And then what we have seen during this time that the Green Deal ideas are open is that we should be complemented by people in prevention and preparedness, and also a link with the Earth observation. And this is why we are looking for partners that could complement our idea, or we can bring into their ideas our technology. Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you very much for your time and your contribution. And I'm going to ask Margaret Fournay-Brennan to join us next. Margaret, if you're there.
Hello, how are you?
Camera optional, whichever you prefer, Margaret. There you are. Good to see you.
Okay, thank you. So hello everyone, I'm Margaret Fournay from Athlone Institute of Technology in Ireland. And among teaching thousands of students, what is of particular significance here is that we're known as the home of polymer technology and polymer engineering in Ireland. And here we carry out, spanning all the way from basic research to plastic processing, recycling, working with a whole range of clients and companies. And particularly now, we're also focused on developing sustainable plastics and eco-plastics. I'm also the coordinator for a new EU-China flagship Horizon 2020 project. This is called BioICEP, which means bio-innovation of a circular economy for plastics. And there's the website for that project if you want to have a closer look. So next slide there. So we are targeting as coordinator area 3.2, demonstration of a systemic solution for territorial deployment of a circular, I can't see the end of the slide, economy. Yeah, there, sorry. So we want to focus this team around plastics. We're looking at aspects including the revalorization of plastics waste to bring this into a fully circular project. And we're also looking at the formation of ecoplastics and formulation, blending and new sources of these ecoplastics, and towards developing a zero plastic waste type of environment. And these new ecoplastics need to be amenable to fully biodegradation and bio-repurposing, so bio-depolymerization and repolymerization again. So we're interested in people that can contribute to this area on different aspects. We're currently working with organizations on a national and local level and a range of regional networks. So we're very interested to hear from people from all the different areas, social areas and scientific areas and industrial areas, so that we can work with you in development of clusters across Europe that can replicate and deliver the tutorial deployment of such a system based around plastic circularity. Next slide. We're also interested in targeting as a main partner, but not limited to these topics. That's Area 6, Farm to Fork, subtopic C, reducing the dependence on hazardous pesticides, reducing losses of nutrients from fertilizers, towards zero pollution of water, soil, air, and ultimately fertilizer use. Also, Area 6, subtopic E, reducing food loss and waste at every stage of the food chain, including consumption, while also avoiding unsustainable packaging. And then Area 8, subtopic 1, innovative systemic zero pollutants to protect health, environment, and natural resources from persistent and mobile chemicals. So we're a whole team of us there at AIT, but I put two contacts down in particular. That's myself, you can see there, and also Dr. Yuan Chen. So looking forward to hear from you and your ideas and inputs and how we can put together teams to really deliver these projects. Thank you very much.
Margaret, thank you very much for that, and good luck with the Brokerage event. What I'm going to do now is go back to Patricia from Belgium, from Everest, to see if she is able to come on the line now.
So let's hope you can listen to me.
Brilliant, we're working.
Great.
We're working. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and sorry for the problems with the connection. So first of all, thanks for accepting my pitch. My name is Patricia. As you said, I work for Everest. I'm based in the office of Brussels, but we are a large ICT multinational company. So we are present in 18 countries, and we are working for the company more than 25,000 professionals. The core of our business is digital transformation services, and the key technology lines in which we work are cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, the digital twin, and cloud. Of course, we are very happy to use this expertise on our key line technologies in Horizon 2020, and an integral part of our strategy as a company is innovation, is based on innovation, and that's why we have a very active participation in Horizon 2020, and we are following closely the future Horizon Europe. Here you have some examples of Horizon 2020 projects in which we have been involved. Usually we are involved as coordinators and as partners, depending on the topic and depending on resources. Next slide, please. Thank you. In this slide, we have identified all the topics in which we believe that we can provide our expertise. As you know, in the Green Deal call, digital transformation is quite transversal. So for this reason, we believe that in all these topics, we could make a great contribution. I want to draw your attention to Area 10. In Area 10, my colleagues from the Living Lab in Barcelona can provide an expertise in co-creation activities and innovation. The Living Lab in Barcelona is a place dedicated to analyze and explore how technologies can transform economy and the society. Next slide, please. And today, this is the main goal of my pitch. It's to inform and share with you our interest in the topic in Area 5 for green ports as multimodal hubs for sustainable and smart mobility. We are open to join a consortium, and since this is a topic that is very much on our top priorities, we are open to try to mobilize consortiums as well. My colleagues from the Transport and Logistics Department, they have a great and extensive expertise in mobility as a service, smart logistics, covering the whole value chain. In this topic, we can apply business analytics, AI, IoT, blockchain, smart contracts, and big data solutions. And I also want to highlight the fact that in a previous Horizon 2020 projects, we have also worked in the management of the use of hydrogen as an alternative source of energy, and this is something that it can be also really interesting in the green ports topic. I want to highlight as well the fact that at this moment we are partners in a Horizon 2020 project that is called Dataports, in which we are dealing with blockchain. And I agree, I believe that in this project we are developing like capabilities that can be really enriching for the topic we are talking today about. And if you want to talk with me about this or about like possible collaboration, I will be in the Brokerage event, or you can send me an email in the contact below. Thank you very much.
Patricia, thank you very much for that, and I really appreciate it. And you're our last pitch. Just as a courtesy, I want to say that Thanasis Svetstos from NCSR in Greece, the Institute of Nuclear and Particle Physics, was unable to join us because of a clash. He is particularly interested in the areas of topic 1.2, 9 and 10. And what we'll do is those presentations and his presentation will be included as we circulate them to everybody. I want to thank you all for your attendance. I want to wish you every success in the brokerage meetings, which I know have started. There's over 3,410 confirmed. Again, I would ask people to confirm the meetings that have been requested or decline them so people can fill those spaces as appropriate. I want to really thank everybody for coming today. Our system tells us at one point we had over 1,200 people on the webinar. We apologize slightly for the delay in timing. It was difficult to get this right this morning, and we wish you every success. I want to particularly thank colleagues in InvestNI and the wider EEN network, in particular those co-organisers, for making this such an international event, and John Bell from the Commission for his enlightening presentation this morning. So I'd like to wish you all every success over the next 2 days. If you need anything, you know where we are, and we look forward to all engaging with you on the Green Deal going forward. Many thanks.